across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill. Yes, I am standing in for Kevin O'Sullivan as he helms the good ship, which is breakfast. And we have an insane show planned for you tonight. We've got all these different topics we've got to get into it. It's a massive news day. We've got migrant hotels our money being spaffed away. We've got the sex attack on the migrant sex attacker who is absolutely now locked up, but will he be deported? That's the question. And when? David Lammy has a lot of unanswered things to talk to us. But look, I want to jump right into it. John Wedger is a copper who he's been doing basically God's work, I would say, by trying to scream and shout about the grooming gangs issue that is happening in London, in this very city that we are sitting in today. He has been going out, he has been collecting evidence, he has been telling them to do something, but all he's received is threats to his home, threats to his safety, people saying, don't talk about this, cover it up. Only just this weekend, I saw that they're reopening these 9,000 grooming gang cases in our once great city. Now, this is too little too late. I want to jump right in. John, thank you so much for joining us. I've also got Pete Barnes, political strategist, in the studio. John, let's just get into it. What's been going on? I'm a little bit rattled, to be honest, because we spoke outside earlier, and when I saw the names, I just started shaking.
Well, if you remember on Kevin's show a couple of weeks ago, I turned around and put a challenge out to both the Mayor and to Mark Rowley. And I believe that Mark Rowley, there is a heart in there. I really do. And I appealed to his better nature, and I said on Kevin's show, please do the right thing. And it looks like that might be happening. The Mayor's not, but Mark Rowley seems to be doing it.
Yeah, it does look like it. So basically they've said that they're reinvestigating the cases which involve intrafamilial, peer-on-peer and institutional settings, along with those that do not fit in the common understanding of a grooming gang. And these cases are now being re-examined following a national review into group-based sexual exploitation. So what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that these were sort of brushed under the carpet and now they're being brought back to light?
Yeah, see, what happens is the police is heavily compartmentalised, and when you've got familial and interfamilial, this is where the argument occurs. So the children ordinarily, and I come bearing gifts, and I want to back up my claims with some hard evidence,
pretty morbid
some
gifts.
Tangible evidence. When the children go missing from their care homes, because this is usually the source of you know, the exploitation, they get known as a missing person. So a form gets filled out and off it goes. And it goes, that is a policing unit, the MISPER unit. It then gets sort of splintered off. The social services get a copy, and then the child protection unit for the police gets a copy. Now they deal with familial abuse, right? Interfamilial abuse. And then it also gets sent, if it involves sexual exploitation or pimping as it was once termed, it will go to the clubs and vice unit. Now they all should take ownership. They should all come together with a common goal, a common purpose of saving that little kid that's at risk of exploitation or is indeed being exploited. But they do the opposite, they row out of it. So the missing persons unit just stay in the office and shine their chairs. They don't tend to go out. They should really be debriefing the children as to what's happened, you know, once they abscond. The kids that go missing are all usually subject to a care order, so the child protection team should be jumping in with social services on a multi-agency approach and saving these kids, but they don't. They say that these kids are being pimped out, therefore it's people outside of the family, it's not an interfamilial issue, clubs and vice have it, you know, or the vice squad. So the vice squad turn around and say, well, they're being abused by people outside of the family unit, or they're kids that are subject to care orders. The child protection team can have it, and all they do is legitimately push it away.
That's sick, because honestly, a lot of these kids, as you've explained time and time again, trying to get your voice heard, is that they're in care homes, they're already vulnerable children. It is this sort of exploitation circle, if you want to call it that. I mean, it's really a ring of this. They obviously are there in the care homes, they then get picked up, right? And then they get pimped out. And taken to multiple different locations around London. You know, you talk about ritzy Mayfair restaurants, but before that it would be to builders in the local area or in a certain hotel room in an area. And then after that, the night just goes on and on and on. And the things that you've told me about, even the 14-year-old boy that had AIDS so badly that he died, just is absolutely heartbreaking. And the fact that they would turn a blind eye to that just absolutely baffles me.
Look, we've got many strands to this. This is what they call multifaceted. The kids are a cash cow. From cradle to grave, they make money. So when you've got the dysfunctionality, because 80% of the abuse goes on in the family, a child is at risk of being abused 30 times more likely with the presence of a step-parent.
Right.
And we've got a broken community, so that goes on a lot. Then the state intervenes with protection orders. They get put into the care system. Right, now, there's this grey area where you've got the care homes that are governed by Ofsted and have to do some sort of checking up on them. They're like the arbiters of these places. But there's like these other facilities that take the kids in their latter teenage years, which are sort of like looked after places that aren't subject to Ofsted, sort of ombudsman. And they get, well, back then they were getting up to £2,000 per kid, right, per week.
Right.
So if you've got on average of about 5 kids in there, you're raking in big money, right? And these kids regularly abscond. And they cannot be the most user-friendly children because there's a lot of problems there. So if the kids go missing, usually on a Thursday, and then present themselves back on a Tuesday with loads of problems related to the sex industry, you know, injuries and infections, but also coming down from Class A drug addiction, and they kick off. So the care home can't wait to boot them out again at the end of the week. And these kids leave the care home and they are literally picked up outside the home and taken off. Now, some of these children's homes were actually writing down the numbers plates of the cars that were picking them up.
So they knew about this?
They knew about this. And the police knew about this. But when I inquired in the borough of Haringey with the child protection team, is there a problem with children being pimped out? And I was told categorically, no. There was an officer appointed to look at it, and in the last 2 years, there were none. She went on maternity leave, and again, the 3 areas where I say are failings, there is incompetence, laziness, and then overarching there's corruption.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what it seems.
I asked for this role, and I got a list of care homes, and I've got some of them written down here, and I rang them up and I took original notes. Right. So the first care home I rang up, and I've got it here, I rang one up and I said, do you lose a kid or children? And they said, yep. They gave me the name of a girl, 15-year-old. They even
this is the concrete evidence, by the way, that Sadiq Khan does not want you to hear. He does not want you to know that this is going on in our great capital city.
We've even got the name of the pimp, and we've got the number plate of the car, and we've got the street name of the guy that was picking her up. I went to the next home. They lose 2. And on it goes, on it goes. So when I say I found 3 kids in 3 minutes, this is the truth. And they were a mixture of girls and boys. So when we look at the Rochdale Rotherham, it's usually white girls. These are girls, boys of every ethnicity, right? And every background. Now, the shocking thing is, after 3 days, I found 52 kids. There's one kid's home here.
3 days?
Yep.
It took you 3 days to find 52 children being pimped out on the streets of London?
Yep. There's one here, right? I rang up the manager of the kids' home. Name was Andre.
Right.
And I said, how many children you got, Andre? He said 5. I said, how many of them do you lose to criminality? And I explained, I'm interested in the prostitution. And he boldly told me, we lose 5 out of 6 every week. And it's here in my original notes. I then decided to hold a meeting. So this is circa 2008. And here is the top of it. It's got report, read children at risk of criminal exploitation subject to care orders residing within the borough of Haringey. I then went on and I listed...
Just be careful you don't show the names, but this is...
15 children's homes, and in that I've listed the 6 of the kids that were most at risk.
Right.
Right? And I said, we need to get to work now. I was attacked by Head of Social Services for Safeguarding.
So this is while you were within the Met Police, right?
Yep. I was told, do not go anywhere near it, because they then have to put in 52 emergency care plans, and it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of effort.
Well, this is what I mean with the 9,000 that they just brought up today. I mean, how they don't have the resources for that. I don't know why. This is just a headline hunting thing, don't you think?
Of course it is.
Empty platitudes, no, John?
Well, the thing is, right, put your money where your mouth is. Now, I want to stand by that as well, because after one of the shows I did with Kev on here, I went out with an investigative journalist and a documentary maker.
Yes.
We went on the street, and within 90 minutes we found a girl from 14 being out there being worked on the street. And by the end of a couple of hours, we had identified the location of 3 girls. One was 12 years old on the streets of the rough part of the East End. And I'd worked in Vice many years. I was quite a seasoned officer on street prostitution. I had never seen so many street prostitutes in my life in one area. And I asked them, do you ever see the police? And they all of them, it was an emphatic no. Well,
let's have a look at what Sadiq Khan says to this.
You were asked by a member for an oral update on rape gangs. You never seem to want to talk about rape gangs. If you were asked for an oral update, why can't you just give an oral update and then the clock starts going after that? Because many people wonder why we don't ask additional questions, and it's because we're on the clock. I will ask a question then. Do you believe, Mr. Mayor, that there are grooming gangs now in London?
So, Chair, in London, the vast majority of what we're dealing with is county lines, which involves organised criminal networks moving illegal drugs.
Mr. Mayor, can I stop you? This is the answer you keep giving me. You know what a grooming gang is now. Even you must have picked up on what a rape gang is. Perhaps if I put it that way, you'll understand more.
I mean, what would you say to Sadiq Khan? This man is clearly in denial about what's actually going on in the city and under his watch to innocent children.
He's mocking. That's what he's doing. He's mocking. This is vile criminality, and kids are at mortal risk here. He's not addressing it. People should be jumping in and saying, this stops now. Under my watch, this does not go on. And all he's doing is a seminar in semantics, and he's mocking a good woman who's addressing the problem. Look, listen, it doesn't matter if he was lower down the rank, but he's not. This is the man who's in charge of this city. He's in charge of policing in this city.
Yeah, he's the crime commissioner, for God's sake. I mean, Pete, I want to bring you in here because I know that
was extraordinary, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely. That's why when I started the show and you'd been talking to me earlier, I was sort of out of my body at one point because it really, really upsets me. I get so sensitive to this stuff. It's little children.
This is it's one of the lines this country has is you don't mess with kids. No matter what the issue is.
Seems like that's not the case.
Yes, and that's why the country is up in arms about this, and it is yet again the phrase found out. This was swept under the carpet, this was made to go away, and more importantly, this was what I call Westminstered away. It was hidden by language, it was devolved into different groups and different sections. There's nobody ever held specifically accountable within, from what I can understand, within the Met for child protective. So it's all this group and that group and that. That is not an accident, that is often done deliberately to spread blame in case something eventually does go wrong.
Well, often the victims are treated like the actual delinquents here, and they're the ones who actually have to foot the blame. Is that something you've experienced when you've tried to get into it?
Yeah, like I said earlier, when I picked one of the kids up, it was 14, on the streets, on heroin, on crack cocaine, in a red light area. She had HIV/AIDS. I put her in the car. My control said, get rid of her. She's got scabies. She'll infect the car. That was her attitude. Now, ironically, because I've been doing this work and now I'm getting national media attention after 2 decades, I've been inundated with survivors, and a girl that was one of our juveniles at risk contacted me and she said, can I meet you? I met with her today and she said I was one of them girls, and I remember her.
Oh my
God. And she said the police didn't care for us. They had no interest in us.
How's she doing now?
She's holding it together and she's very well presented, but it's been an uphill struggle, and she's under counselling and everything else. Now, she showed me a book, and there was a book written called Crack Houses, and it was I don't know, a flying squad detective, or it was an Operation Trident detective at the forefront of the war against drugs. And she said he writes in his book about the crack houses and these young girls, of which she was one of them, going into these crack houses in Hackney and Tottenham. She said, I was one of them girls. And this officer refers to them as street dogs.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. The young girls in this country especially have genuinely been treated like trash because they are working class. They are, you know, they've always been painted as these renegades. They're the problem. You know, they're troubled teenagers. Don't worry about them. And their voices haven't been heard. And it's only because of this grooming gangs inquiry that now has absolutely sort of been destroyed by Labour. But that's a whole other conversation.
But I've heard of girls have told me of police officers that were meant to be protecting them that have been soliciting them for sex. You know, once they've been taking them into custody. I've heard of people, magistrates, people in the judiciary involved. And I was approached by a senior officer that worked on a very major children's inquiry into Hope de la Garenne, a kid's home in Jersey.
Yep.
And he said the same to me. He was bullied in exactly the same way. They bully us when we whistle blow. They threaten us. Well, you got to understand, policing is not subject to employment law, so they can do what they want to us, and they do. And they bully us.
Right.
And they threaten us. And he said, John, what you'll find with this criminality, it may well go right to the heart of the British establishment. And I think they're pretty much not far from the truth.
Pete, do you agree with that?
Yes. The way I would phrase it is it's not necessarily that everybody's complicit in it. It is politically toxic, so everybody has looked the other way. And because they've looked the other way, it has got worse and worse and worse. I think what you're describing here is if you interject early enough, you can save these girls.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that is what we take away from it. And what's more important is we have to take away that stigma from the victims. So important, because, you know, as you know, the way we talk about them, the way the language we use has to change. Otherwise, nothing will get any movement.
And the other thing you've got to look at is when you've got like vice units that deal with prostitution across the board, they will go into the brothels where there's adults that have consented into this, getting away the traffic and coercive under duress element. You know, a lot of the women we dealt with had made a choice to go and work in it as adults. When the police go in, there's a proceeds of crime issue comes in pocket.
Right.
So they can seize assets, and them assets go straight back into policing. And a lot of the girls were foreign nationals, so the police would have to go abroad to take statements, which would mean a business class flight abroad. They would get $110 a day, and sometimes they would go into nice countries, you know, such as Thailand, such as Australia. Right? But when you're dealing with kids from care homes, there's no foreign travel. You're on the street. A lot of the kids are antisocial, they're damaged, they're angry, they're aggressive, and they don't like you. And no one wants to deal with it. So I would go into work, and they would say, right, so-and-so, you've got to go to maybe Ukraine to take a statement, you're going off to Thailand. John, you're going to Hackney, you're going to Bethnal Green.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll take the business.
So,
but you know what? It's ridiculous that it comes down to stuff like business class tickets and sort of, you know, what's the more ritzy path, or the horrible thing you just told me about someone having scabies and not wanting them in the car. This is the disgusting nature and the disgusting side of this sort of thing. And it really, really irks me. I mean, what could be done about this? Is the Met just scared of the truth at this point?
Well, of course it is, because like the senior officer said to me, this will F us past, present and future. I found evidence of some of these girls going back 15 years. So it was going back to the late 80s.
Wow.
They knew about this and did nothing. And it was the same people involved in it. It's organised criminality. And it is, and no one is touching it. And because it needs a proactive approach, if you step away from that proactivity, it doesn't present itself.
That's such a good point.
And it needs
you consistently need the people to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. The minute they stop, everything collapses.
John, I'm going to keep you. We're going to take a quick break.
Right.
It's just going to be a 5-minute segment after. I've got Marilyn Hawes, who's also down the line. She is the CEO of Freedom from Abuse, and we're going to chat to her as well more on this topic. If you've got any thoughts towards it, 0344 499 1000 is the number. Get your calls in. I want to discuss this. Something needs to be done. We're at breaking point. All that and much more after the break.
This is a catastrophe. This is a shambles. It's an excruciating embarrassment. And they're going, well, very good police operation. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. They got a phone call yesterday morning. 2 diligent, decent citizens. Hello, we've seen this guy's at a bus. Oh, thanks very much. They come down and arrest him. How about sacking Lammy? How about that?
Absolutely. This man, not only, as you say, Kev...
Did he blame the Tories?
Not only... Well, he did blame the Tories. He said this is years of failure by the Tories.
Oh,
not
for God's sake.
When...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh, a big response to that segment. Hi, Samara. Just wanted to say how much I enjoy you standing in for Kev. Oh, thanks. I thought you were talking about the grooming gangs. Yeah, no, I love John. What he's saying really hits the spot. It's true. I mean, there's very few truth tellers like you, John. And just one other truth teller is Marilyn Hawes, who's down the line. She's the CEO of Freedom from Abuse. Welcome to the show, Marilyn.
Thanks, Samara.
Look, I mean, where to even start? It feels like people like you, people like John, have been banging on about this for such a long time, and all you've had is doors slammed in your face, and you basically being gaslit by the authorities to say that you're wrong. What would you say to that now that everything's being completely unstuck?
Told you so. I mean, honestly, I told you so. Listen,
you can laugh because you cry otherwise, you know.
I have been banging on about child abuse per se for 23 years, and when it came out about my own children had been sexually abused, and I found out 3 of my 4 children were by my boss, who was the head teacher. I was the deputy. I had no idea. And I really got into this big time. And I think I became a bit of a problem for Westminster. So I was like, if you like, blowing off the cobwebs of the walls of the corridors in Westminster. I was dished and given a Schedule D notice by Tony Blair. Now, I'm sure John Wedger and maybe your people there, the other gentlemen there, have heard of a Schedule D notice, have you? Yeah. So I got
What is that for the audience?
Well, for the audience, it means I was shut down. Well, I wasn't, because I am not going to be silenced. I know what it's like to have to be, what should I say, navigate through the rocky waters of trying to get through dealing with and managing children who have been sexually abused by someone who was their head teacher, who was their mother's best friend for years, okay? And I got really into this, and I really was. I mean, I'm still like a lioness about people who have been abused of any description. They didn't like it because I was getting horribly perilously close to the truth of people in Tony Blair's government who were sat on the front bench. And I got this, I was so naive then, and I was quite frightened because I got this one morning, this strange email arrived, and I went, oh, what's this? Then it was a buff piece of paper with sort of confidential strapped through it and a Schedule D notice, and I'll ring my lawyer in London. And I said, hey, look what I've got, and there's some names on here. And I said, what do I do with it? He said, get rid of it, get rid of it. He said, because this is dangerous. You're like, this is a warning shot across the bows. And I said, well, you know, you mean I'm going to get a poison dart in my bum, like that guy David, what was his name? Around about the time.
From the Iraq inquiry.
That's right, that's right. And
the fact that you know that, that's why you're here.
This is very dangerous. And I went, but why? If you mention any of those people's names, you want to be very careful if you're standing on a tube station, because, you know, you really are living in dangerous territory. And I I have not stopped. I refuse to stop. And when my children's abuser walked free from court with a £200 fine, I was mightily on the backs of the judges, thinking, well, how many of you are corrupt? Because this whole thing goes from top to bottom and the width and depth of it. I'm sure the gentleman there will be quite familiar with the Dolphin House scandal that went on, where secret TV cameras were ripped out. And I went on a silent protest there and sat outside because it was all down to how many police officers belong to Freemasons. I'm sorry, but they're protected.
Well, Marilyn, look, I want to get into this, though. I feel like it's all, though, about our lackluster approach to children and pedophiles in general. I mean, even the fact that Hadush Gabutu, this Ethiopian sex criminal, got accidentally freed from prison this week, says a lot about how we just don't care about the safety of the women and girls in the community.
Samara, they have never cared. There's not one government in 23 years that I've done this job has ever cared. They've never done anything to step out, think out of the box, outside the box.
What should happen to him? Should he be deported?
Of course he should have been. He should have been deported before he ever went to prison. I do not understand why we are keeping these people. Do you know what they should be doing? Because I am on the side of these. I mean, do you know what? If they can't find someone to run the blooming inquiry, I'll do it. Maggie Oliver, she knows me. And we would get to the truth. And that's why they wouldn't want to employ us, because they want to gaslight people. And Ellie Ann Reynolds spoke brilliantly today on GB
She did. She's a friend of the show.
Absolutely brilliantly. And there's a woman that's she might have been set back in her childhood by what's happened to her, but my God, has she come back, as all these ladies have, and good for her, because
that success is the best form of revenge, isn't it? I mean, she's got 3 beautiful kids, she's got a lovely husband, and she's shown them.
And it shows you do not have to be defined by what happened to you in those early years. Same with me. I was not going to be defined as the mother of 3 sexually abused children. You know, I had the Schedule D notice. I was threatened with contempt of court. I've had death threats. I'm still here.
What would you
shut up?
Honestly, I am beyond impressed. And someone's trying to call me on there. Look, the thing is, Marilyn and John, these 9,000 cases, is it good enough? Is what the Met Police is doing now, is that good enough?
Can I just say, Samara, it's just such a shame that I miss what I've got, which I can send you. Someone has found a YouTube thing just recently done on the real truth about, well, is it real truth? Who knows? It could be AI, couldn't it? But about
these days, yes.
Sadiq Khan. I cannot stand Sadiq Khan. He's a weasel. He really is. He squirms his way out of everything. And that interview with the lady the other day,
with Susan
really explain to me what she really means. Oh, stop being such a smart ass. You know exactly what she means, and you're showing yourself up and you're humiliating yourself. If he has, and he clearly has, and with this I draw in Samara Rowley, because if I knew it was going on, and John and the other gentleman, I'm so sorry, I can't remember your name. Peter, sorry. I should remember it because my God's called Peter. But if you knew it, I knew it, everybody knew it, and Sadiq Khan didn't.
Should he resign after this?
It should be
because honestly, after I just saw the evidence from John, I think those pages of evidence are enough to make him resign.
He is not going to resign. He is protected by his friendship with Keir Starmer, who I can't stand either.
Let me just let...
You've only got to look at what's his name? Hermer, Lord Hermer, another one.
That is a rabbit hole we could go down all night. John, I just want to let you have a word.
Well, what is interesting is the dangers of child abuse, and this hence their reluctance to bring it out. Now you said there about getting a D notice. Why for criminality would he issue a D notice? A D notice is not a civilian tool. It's called a defence notice. Winston Churchill brought them in during the First World War because loose lips sink ships. So it is a weapon of the intelligence services because paedophilia controls global politics. Criminality, like I said before, is for the reserved mainly, without sounding a snob, of the lower and working classes. But when you get child abuse, you've got emotionally damaged people that come from every single strata in society, and it can cause major problems. That's why they want to put their lid on the bottle and keep it there.
Just look at the Epstein files. Just look at what has come. I've been reading Virginia Giuffre's book over the weekend, and it's staggering how many similarities there are between this on all ends of the spectrum. And you're right, it is, preying on the vulnerable girls.
And it's got blackmail value.
Samara, it is not a class thing. It's across all classes, from the top of the people that run this country, as we've seen, right down the bottom. And also with these gangs, gangs, and please, they are rape gangs, barbaric rape gangs. They are not grooming gangs. They are barbaric rape gangs where they have maybe
call them for what they are.
Raped one child 14 times. You know, what happens is you have 3 stages. You have the hook. So the hook could be somebody the same age as the child, or somebody that hangs around a one-stop shop or something like that. Then that hook gets that child by sort of like really being quite aggressive and forceful with them, and they go into what is then called the coordinators. Those are the people with the taxis and the cars that take them to what is supposed to be a safe space. Well, of course it isn't. When they get there, they'll find me at least a dozen men 3 times the age of the child.
Correct.
They will be drugged, they will be given alcohol, they will be passed around like a tray of cakes.
God. Marilyn, honestly, it just it makes my skin crawl. So let's just hope that something happens in this country to make it stop, because I think there's been a very strong message to say we've had enough. Marilyn, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it. John?
If I could just part with this, it's not just a childhood. Look at suicides. Yeah. Let's look at that. How many people commit suicide have come from abuse? Yeah. You know, and so it's just destructive all round.
A victim has spoken out today saying that Sadiq Khan's constant denial of the rape gangs could lead victims to suicide.
Yes. There you go. Amen.
So there you go. Amen. That man may well have blood on his hands.
Yeah, it does.
Can I just say, it's not could, will.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as I'm concerned.
I can't see that message. There's a very nice message for you, apparently waiting. It says, John, you're a very brave man. Indeed. And that is true. And I would go so far as to say you're a national hero, John. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Listen, my bravery is nothing to
I know you don't do it for the
kids that are having the duvet taken from over them in the middle of the night. My bravery is a drop in the ocean compared to the children. So.
Yeah, well, you're the only one brave enough to step forward.
I'm going to let you go because I know that you're actually going from here to do more work.
To see a victim.
To go and see a victim, and we thank you for that, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Amazing.
After the break, digital IDs. Do you want one? Not me.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It is just past 7:30, quite a bit past 7:30. We've run over, but I will still have time for your calls. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Give me a call. I've got a couple lines still open. Definitely want to hear your thoughts on this next topic. So basically, digital ID in Britain just took another turn. A senior advisor has sounded the alarm that these digital identity plans could make our two-tier society even worse. Now think about that for a second. A system that was sold to us as being convenience and security, it actually might decide who counts and who doesn't in everyday life. So when it comes to the NHS, maybe you're at the NHS and they realised, oh wait, Mike hasn't paid his taxes. Mike in Warwickshire, who I've got on my board here for calls. You haven't paid your taxes. Never mind. I don't think we'll give you NHS treatment. Or what if it comes to, I don't know, trying to buy a house and then they look and they see, ooh, Pete here's made a really nasty tweet. I don't think we're going to offer him a home loan anymore. That is the dystopian future that we might be living in, and the person to talk to about that would be Chloe Dobbs, political commentator. Chloe, welcome to the show.
Hello, Samara.
What are your thoughts? I mean, is it going to be two-tier Britain once again?
So, a lot of us have raised the alarm bells about this being two-tier Britain, in the sense that people who have said controversial things online, for example, may not be able to operate within society. If you are suspected of not paying your taxes properly, maybe you'll be blocked from getting NHS treatment, as you just alluded to. But what this lady, Helen Milner, is pointing out is something that's quite important that I think a lot of people haven't addressed, which is the two-tier society that might emerge between us young lot and older people.
Yes.
Who I mean, many of them don't even have the internet. I mean, I think it's 2 million pensioners don't even have internet, right? A lot of us young people who aren't surrounded by many old people just think everybody's got a phone, everybody knows how to use social media, everybody is tech savvy. No, it's simply not the case. There are huge swathes of the older generation that would really, really struggle to get to grips with something like this. And now Keir Starmer is trying to give us assurances and say, oh, it will only be necessary for getting a job, for example, but for everything else it will be optional. But remember the NHS COVID pass, where you could show a QR code on your phone to show that you're vaccinated.
I shudder at the thought.
So that you can go into a pub or basically anywhere indoors, you had to show this. And technically it was optional, but it very quickly became the case where it was everything but optional. It was almost impossible if you didn't have it. A heck of a lot of bureaucracy. And also, it's, for example, technically we have the right to use cash or card in society, right? But how many coffee shops do you see now where there's a sign that says card only, right?
Yeah. The cashless thing also cuts old people out in a massive way, in a horrible way.
Yes,
so,
and I think, exactly. So a cashless society is difficult enough for old people, but I think a digital ID would make things a lot more difficult. And Keir Starmer, because all of us were ringing the alarm bells as soon as he announced this, that this is going to be some sort of draconian measure to take away our freedoms and stop us from being able to operate in society if we don't behave ourselves. But he assured us to start off with that this was all just about illegal migration. And all of us were saying, hang on a minute, you haven't made a single good argument as to how on earth this stops illegal migration. Something smells fishy here. And then sure enough, as the support for the policy started waning very, very quickly after the announcement, he started saying, oh, well, actually, we could use it for this thing. Actually, we could use it for that thing. And basically admitting this was not really about illegal migration. We want to introduce it to make the way that you interact with the state more seamless, which may sound compelling to some people because you think, oh, great, when I buy a bottle of booze, I don't have to remember my ID and get it out my wallet. But it is a very, very slippery slope to a two-tier society in many ways, and a lack of privacy and an increase in state control that I think many people are concerned about, and hence why the support for the policy has massively reduced since he announced it. I don't think it's ever going to happen, to be honest, Samara, because they say they'll do it by the end of Parliament.
True,
I mean,
which
maybe
will be
they'll bring it in.
It'll be 2029, won't it? And by that time, we may have a different government.
Reform will scrap, even if they put all the effort in and they bring it in for a month, Reform will scrap it straight away. But I mean, it was a total car crash when they tried to have this NHS test and trace app that they were testing on the Isle of Man. The app wouldn't work, it kept crashing. The government are not very good at making apps, and they're also great at leaking data as well, so I don't think any of us should be trusting it. So
they can't even deport one migrant. They accidentally freed
exactly.
How are we going to trust them with this digital ID system? I mean, Chloe, what's the very worst thing in your mind that can happen with digital ID? Because my mind runs absolutely wild when I think about how the Labour government, who thinks that anyone who says anything about immigration is a fascist and a racist, what could they do with this? What in your mind is the worst thing?
Okay, so there are a lot of European countries that have some form of digital ID, and Starmer and others will point to those countries to say, look, it's not that scary, there isn't a big slippery slope. However, in those European countries and in ours, we do not yet have central bank digital currencies. Right. If we have CBDCs, right, there is a huge scope for them to control us via a digital ID. And those of us who like to voice our political views online, we would be terrified in such a scenario that we will suddenly have our access to our funds, our ability to spend money and just buy a coffee stripped away from us if we misbehave and say the wrong thing. That is absolutely terrifying. And I mean, just going back to the point you made, Samara, about you being denied access to the NHS if you haven't paid your taxes, sounds a bit draconian, but HMRC are already starting to do some scary things because apparently, for example, they are going through people's Instagrams and social media to check if there are. So if you post a picture of you at a fancy restaurant on your Instagram story, then suddenly there might be a HMRC tax investigation opened up into you. So
yeah, because they're trying to check that basically your lifestyle weighs up to, you know, what taxes you're paying, which if anyone knows anything, you always try and make your life look better than it is on social media.
Exactly, and they're going to start raiding people's bank accounts now. I mean, they're desperately trying to raise any money at the Treasury at the moment. As we know, they keep trying to raise taxes on the rich, but they keep leaving to Dubai. So they'll use any tactic that they can. And if a digital ID helps them raise some more funds, I wouldn't put it past them to try it.
I tell you what, I get really anxious when I see Starmer, just like the Online Safety Act, say one thing about digital ID to its citizens, and then when he goes off to India, when he goes and does all his, foreign escapades, he goes, actually, it's for tax. I mean, that is what happened when he went to India. He said, no, it's going to help us with our tax system. And I'm thinking, what? That's not exactly what you were saying to the British public, Keir. Like, he's so two-faced. It really scares me. So,
Two-tier Keir.
Oh, two-tier Keir till the end. And that's why we don't want him with any of our digital IDs. Chloe, always such a pleasure. One of my favourite people ever. Chloe Dobbs, thank you so much for joining us. Is Chloe Dobbs, political commentator? I mean, you've got ideas on this.
Oh, I think this poses the single greatest existential threat to national security, to what it is to be Britain. Right. I really don't sugarcoat it. Think of every dystopian novel, 1984, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451. The Labour Party put it in one policy, and Chloe's not right here. It's already in law. We already have the Data Use and Access Act, the Digital Verification Services is going through Parliament as we speak. This is being done in the background to all the chaos, because you have to remember, the government might be bad at doing things it wants to do, but when it really wants to do something, when the state wants to do something, watch the money come from somewhere, watch the pieces get put into place, and the very smart people make sure it passes through Parliament. It happens every single time. It's how you got the Coronavirus Act renewed every single time. You know, it's what they wanted, it's
so
what they
cheery.
get.
So
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I've seen it happen.
What a fantastic Monday night, full of fun times, happy days.
And it only gets worse.
Well, at least cheer me up. Your calls after the break, 0344 499 1000. I'll be taking them then.
The people on the gates of a prison, at the doors of a prison, are not prison officers. They're subcontracted.
Well, they're called operational support grades. They wear a uniform, black and white, the same as prison officers. They're not trained to the same standard as prison officers. What they should have done is rang up their manager and said, look, we've got some guy here, keeps going on about being deported. What do we do with him?
Yeah, keeps going on about, I don't think you should be releasing me.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Oh my goodness. Tommy says, love Samara. Get her own gig. I don't know about that. I don't know if I've got the stomach for it.
Yes, you do.
Joanna from Salisbury says, 16 hours ago they announced digital IDs for new free bus passes.
Yep.
Who pays for the elderly to have smartphones and contracts teaching how to use them? Yeah, I agree. I mean, what is that about? It really is a system that is totally geared towards the young people, as you were telling me in the break.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's a bit dark and insidious.
Yeah, it's because young people are used to having things on their phones. It's just another thing. It's just another bit of ID you have to carry. They haven't lived or experienced a government or a time in history where a government has actively worked against its people. That's not something that they've ever experienced. It's known as the liberal bubble syndrome. It's like, everything is terrible here. No, it's not. Look around the world. And this is why it's actually been very strategically put in certain places for veterans' sake. It makes it easier for us to identify them. They have military ID. Again, nonsense. But young people like transparency and they like to be able to control their information.
True.
This is the big thing with that group. So it's not really a green light at the minute. It's a bit of a orangey glow to it, which is more than I would like it to be.
They're waiting for a lot of these people to just keel over, which is horrible to even think about.
That is exactly what has been factored into the policy. It's been factored into housing, the pensions crisis,
think about the winter fuel allowance.
Yeah.
That was, these people... Come the next election, they won't be alive to vote for us. That's how horrible and demented Labour policy can be.
Even if you want to take it into the state level, it's more, they won't be a policy problem.
Yeah, you're
It's not even just the kind of politics of it. It is the operations of the state. They view it that way.
Let's talk to Janice in Essex. Janice, welcome to the show.
Oh, hiya. Oh, thank you for taking my call. I love you guys.
We love you too.
What I like to say is that I actually against this ID. That means we're getting communists. We have two sleeping giants at our door. Europe's for this, so Russia's going to take that bit. China has got most of Africa. We've only got Trump, and he can talk Gaza or Russia out for the stroke of a pen.
We've got Trump, but has Trump got us? Because I think he despises us.
We also have Trump for 2 years and more, and that's it. I hate to remind people, but Trump won't be president forever. And
Don't say that.
Sorry, but and JD Vance might be the next best hope, because this is the point. There is nobody coming through that I can see.
I don't think there's any hope.
Yeah. Well, we have to live with it and
see what's coming their way.
Yeah, but I think this is why it's really important that we campaign against it now. I think we really have to push it.
Stop the arguing.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, that this one within the Westminster village, as it were, has garnered a lot of unlikely bedfellows. It's like back to the Brexit years where people are agreeing with each other who would normally not agree with each other.
Yeah, you're right. Sort of this great
is a kind of red line. And governments don't cross these ones very easily.
Well,
the problem is Starmer has a huge majority and a very inexperienced backbench who are not willing to rebel against him.
Correct, but they also control every single move that he makes. Whenever they revolt, he sort of bows down to them a little bit.
A few select ones within the backbenchers do. Yeah.
Okay, Janice, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for that. Scott B says, in relation to the rape gangs operating across the UK, what happens when the state fails to uphold the rule of law and protect its citizens? It's that people start to take the law into their own hands. Before you know it, you'll have military groups operating in the UK mainland doing our summary justice. That's interesting, because we've had so many stories today, but I did want to talk also about the London protests. I'm sure we'll get to that sometime in the show, but that to me seemed like some sort of weird military group that had thought that they'd take everything into their own hands and sort of chant Allahu Akbar. It was these basically anti-UKIP demonstrations over the weekend. We will get into it later. But I've got to go to Tarquin in London. Tarquin, how are you?
Samara, Chloe, is it Peter?
It's Peter. Yes, it's Pete. Pete Barnes.
It's 2025. I could be Chloe.
Yeah, yeah, you could identify as Chloe.
You guys are doing a brilliant job. Do you know that in the absence of the master himself, Kevin, I know he's doing the Mike show at the minute, but yeah. But back to what you were saying earlier on about this ID thing. Given that, tell me what your logic on this, given that Labour must know, well, they do know, that in 2029, when they are wiped from the face of the planet existentially, because they won't exist as a political force anymore, Farage et al. Will have moved in, and on day one they'll hopefully pass the Great Repeal Act, which will get rid of everything that was dystopian Orwellian that these are putting in now. Now, given that they know this, but given that they're going ahead with it anyway, so they've got 3-4 years in which to implement as much damage and spend as much of our money as they can, because they're going to go for this scorched earth, Fabian, Orwellian nightmare that they want to inflict on everybody, that they must be thinking, well, it's coming from somewhere. The source of the energy of the actual, it must be coming.
Yes, you have to remember the Carl Jung quote. People don't have ideas, ideas have people. So this is, there's not necessarily a grand conspiracy of people manipulating everything. It's people in very powerful positions with the same ideology, with the same outlook in the world. So this idea of everybody's moving pieces around on a chessboard isn't necessarily true. What it is what they'll do is it's in the driving licenses, it's in your bus pass, it's in your doctor's appointments. They have made it impossible to strip out without spending more money. That is how you do it. That's how you do it with Britain. You do it piecemeal, bit by bit, sector by sector, so it doesn't seem like an all kind of dumped on you at once, and then the next thing you know, you have just got used to it. It is literally what Aldous Huxley wrote about in A Brave New World, that tyranny is sold to you as a luxury.
Well, we can see it with the Online Safety Act too. I mean, this is all these blanket, multiple page legislations that are sort of all basically by their own edict, by their student politic, by their way of life, how they want us to be. This is what we need to be scared of. So you make a really good point, Tarquin.
Can I bring up a really good example of this? And it's SAG. It's the Security Advisory Group that's involved in the Tel Aviv Maccabee group.
Yes.
That is purely advisory. It is not in any statutory instruments or in the Local Government Act yet. They don't have to keep minutes. They don't have to tell us who's on the committee. They don't have to tell you who dissented to the overall decision. They only tell you that it's one person as the head of resilience, a very vague title. However, if the clubs don't follow that rule, their advice, they could lose their insurance, licensing, they could be held liable for anything that goes wrong. How is an advisory group having that level of influence? Not an accident. This is outsourcing decision-making away from governments and away from elected officials. It's very smart and it's very dangerous.
Tarquin, thank you so much for your call. Love hearing you on this show. Gosh, after the break, we have a jam-packed hour. We're going to be talking to a migrant hotel king, someone who turned down all these billions of dollars that they've been giving people. We'll also be talking to Rebecca Ryan from Defund the BBC about the woke BBC and the woke police. All that and much more after this break.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill. I am standing in for Kevin O'Sullivan, the great Kevin O'Sullivan, who is hosting breakfast this week. So, yes, things are all topsy-turvy, but hey-ho, I'm quite enjoying being on this side of the glass. We've also got Pete Barnes in the studio with me, so do get your calls in, 03444991000. It is just past 8 o'clock. We have an absolutely jam-packed hour for you. I was staggered that we've been blowing billions and billions of pounds on housing migrants. Oh, wait, that's a lie. I wasn't, because it's something we knew for a very, very, very long time. And for some reason, they've decided that because it's tripled in the past couple of years, it's now an issue. I think it was an issue once we passed our first 100 quid that we had sort of spent on these migrants. I mean, I've spent weekends going around and having a look at these 4-star migrant hotels while talking to locals, some being homeless, right? And others absolutely having to choose between heating and eating. But apparently this country has absolutely more than enough money to pay for illegal migrants that have just broken into the country, and they pitch them up. And I think that that is a national disgrace, and it's egregious. And the reason why it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, or multi-million-pound industry, that's my Australian side coming out, is because they offer massive contracts to local hotel owners, people who have B&Bs. They offer them millions and millions of pounds of money, and a surefire way to make that money, and a surefire way to have their entire hotel booked out for most of the season. So let's talk to someone who hasn't done that, someone I would say is probably one of the most nationalistic people I would know, I would sort of have the privilege of talking to. It's John Mappin. Now, he is the owner of the Camelot Castle Hotel. John, welcome to the show.
Samara, good evening.
Now, you are famous for saying no to these craven people that want to basically pay you a lot of money to pitch up a ton of illegal immigrants in your town and change the whole fabric of it. Why did you say no to all that money?
Well, it was a lot of money, and I worked it out the other day, because of course these contracts go on, and it could have been upwards of about £20 million. But wow. The truth of the matter is, you have to look at the cultural destruction that occurs in a local village like Tintagel. I'm talking to you now from Camelot Castle in Tintagel, and this is a little village. You know, we probably have 1,500 local residents. We are a large holiday destination hotel. And
in Cornwall, right?
In Cornwall. We sit at the birthplace of King Arthur, so it's a historic heritage site. And frankly, initially, when the government's representative approached me, I thought it was a joke. I thought, are you actually kidding me that we're going to be putting up, frankly, illegal migrants in 4-poster beds at Camelot Castle? I mean, it is, the more you think about it, the more ridiculous it is. But, you know, indeed they were. And the most staggering thing about it is I explained to them, I said, well, what about our existing staff? Well, we employ about 30 people locally.
Yes.
They expected us to lay them off. And
really?
Yeah, really, they did. They really did.
Why?
Well, because they didn't need the chefs. They didn't need. They said, well, we'll just clean the hotel rooms once a week. We'll bring the food in on a sort of Meals on Wheels basis. And
so they have a whole sort of apparatus that they've got ready to sort of bolt onto your existing hotel.
Oh no, it's all plug and play. Oh, it's absolutely plug and play. And of course, but that's not the real point. You have to look at what would it do to the local community. Because even though these hotels do have security to stop the public coming in, they don't have a way of really stopping a leakage out into the community. And so what you get is a constant flow. They'd probably have filled this place up with between 100 to 300 illegal migrants that are waiting. You become a sort of a migrant processing centre.
And they're allowed to leave during the day. They're allowed to go and,
No, they can wander around.
At least, sorry, yes.
No, they get driving lessons, free dental, some sort of entertainment. Obviously they probably all need colour televisions. Camelot Castle's a frankly lovely place to stay. It's not unpleasant at all. But and Tintagel's fantastic. So they're allowed to take lovely coastal walks, I suspect. But obviously, somebody that has come in the country and has actually broken the law, to my mind, somebody that has broken a law, it could be argued they are more likely to break laws once they're here.
Oh, absolutely. These are industrious people who have found people smugglers to take them across the border. They've gone and paid them. They've probably been in about 10 different countries. They are not these sort of vulnerable victims that we want to paint them as. You make a really, really good point, John. They are people that will do what they need to do to get ahead, so to speak.
Well, I think on the whole, they are realistically what one could describe as economic migrants. Yes. They see a better opportunity, and frankly, with the existing deals that our government is dangling across their noses. In fact, if you go onto TikTok, you can find some of these characters advertising to their friends back home, the sort of wonderful deals that they're getting in England. And who can blame them? If you're offered free dental, driving lessons, a certain amount of money to live on, I gather. They get given a little bit of pocket money. Somebody said they get mobile phones. Somebody said
they get the choice of mobile phones. Sorry to interrupt. They actually get the choice between Android and
Apple. Yeah, they get
a
free SIM card. You're completely right. That's Pete Barnes in this studio here.
Hi.
It is baffling, and you can see actually how lucrative and watertight those different enticements are when you see that someone who actually got deported last week made it back into the country after it was the one-in, one-out scheme, which has absolutely been a shambles, where he got deported and he then paid a people smuggler saying he didn't feel comfortable enough in France and he wanted to be back in Britain. That proves your point of just how comfortable it is for these people. John, honestly, did you want to say something here, Pete? Because I know you've got the more Tory perspective on this. I would say deport them all and let's shut every hotel down.
Yes, but so this is my big thing, is you can't do that, because where are you going to put 56,000 people? That was what it was at the very height of this. You're now looking at about 32,000. The government is taking victory laps over that, by the way, which I think is perverse. But here we are. This is the problem of what started as, I hate to use this phrase, sticky plaster politics, has formed into one of the most Frankenstein-like policies this country has ever had to live through. It is wildly out of control in spending. There is no accountability. You have essentially, as I think, perfectly right to think about the kind of wider community here. That just hasn't been factored in. And more importantly, and this is the big one, public safety has not even entered the room of the people who came up with this policy. There is no buffer zone between schools or no buffer zone between any of the kind of at-risk or high-profile areas where these kind of clash incidents between migrants and residents of the villages could happen. That hasn't been factored in. The way I was always taught to do policy was safety first, build out from that. That hasn't happened here. This was we need to put them somewhere quick. This was the policy. It was never meant to be long-term, but because nobody thought to think, oh, maybe we'll stop this, it has morphed into this absolute abomination that, it's just, I'm looking at some of the figures here, £8 to £9 million a year. That's a conservative estimate, by the way. Like in terms of a small figure, 4.7 billion.
So it's tripled. It's completely out of control. And Labour's current policy is to say we're going to get everyone out of these asylum seeker hotels by the next election. But what it looks like is they just keep giving out contracts contract after contract. I mean, you're not the first hotel owner that I've spoken to that's actually said, no, I'm not going to do this. But then again, there are people like Graham King, who is known as the asylum seeker billionaire, and he's made, well, he's not an asylum seeker himself, but he's been known to make billions of dollars, £4 million a day off these contracts. So for you, was it about just putting your community first, or was it about something deeper? Was it about sort of a pride that you had for your country and that you didn't want to take this taxpayer money for yourself at the expense of your community?
Well, to be honest, I've been very humbled by the response from the general public. Actually, I don't think I'm alone. I think 95%, perhaps even more than that, of people in this country would not take that money. And,
can I say, I think you're right.
I think the average person in this country would also have told the government to take a running jump.
I think you're right there. Purely, I think you're right there. Purely because the amount of money that they've had to throw at people. I think that's the correlation between people saying no and the fact that the only way you've got anybody to say yes is to put a lot of zeros at the end of a number. I genuinely do. I think that's proof.
Well, it's our taxpayer money, so they don't care.
The other factor, of course, the government crushed the hospitality industry during COVID.
That's a huge factor.
And so there were a number of hotels where probably the owners were looking at it and looking at their balance sheet and going, actually, it's either this or I'm going bust, because a number of people in the hospitality business were hurting very badly after COVID. So I do understand it. My idea behind this, and the reason I actually decided to go public on this, and I think actually when our story broke about, illegal migrants being put up at Camelot Castle in four-poster beds, I think that was the straw that sort of broke the British public's sort of willingness to experience this. This was the final straw for the British public.
Absolutely.
And it just resonated with people. And I've had letters from all over the world. To me, there comes a point where you have to make a stand. When are we, as a country, going to stand up in a peaceful way and say, this far and no further? We are, as a nation, people say that we're an 11th hour nation. And on the whole, we tend to rally at about 11:45.
Yes.
That's very true.
So true.
At the moment, I would say, looking at this government, we're about 5 minutes to midnight at this particular
you're completely
point.
right.
No, and I think the average person is just fed up with it. And I just saw this as an opportunity to highlight the gross insanity of a number of areas of government. And of course, this is really the tip of the iceberg when you look into how the Home Office is run. I mean, Nigel, who's a good friend of mine, was exposing some of the idiocy and the absolute, it's the blind leading the blind. I mean, the lights are on, but nobody's home in some of these ministries. So I'm very, very pleased. I think that certainly our action saved the future of a little Cornish village, and probably in the overall scheme of things, you could say, well, does it matter if our daughters or our sons and daughters in the village of Tintagel can't walk safely down the streets as they have done for many years, because 300 migrants have been put into a village of 1,500 people? I say that does matter, and what I think, it is time that we all tap into our inner sovereignty. We rehabilitate our own power of choice, and we just say, listen, enough is enough. This is our 11th hour. People that came before us, they stood up against all sorts of tyranny. I'm not suggesting any type of, anything more than communicating about it, really, and making sure that we use...
Well, you put your money where your mouth is, genuinely. Like, you really have. And that's the only way to kind of actually get something done about this crisis. I mean, when I look at even just last week, I mean, we couldn't really talk about this because it was an open case, but that Sudanese asylum seeker who stabbed a woman in the throat 27 times because she was working at that asylum hotel and she didn't offer him crackers or biscuits or whatever the hell it was, that's when you say, yes, yes, we are at breaking point right now. I don't know if we can put up with any more of this. I mean, as you said with the Home Office and their incompetency, they let out a pedophile sex offender accidentally out into the street because they couldn't do their job properly. We then had a 2-day manhunt trying to track him down, and it's been revealed that there are 260 of those cases just this year. I mean, this is where you start to say that we've had enough. We can't go on like this. But the issue is there's very few and far people like you, John. I know the honest people of this country are like that, but the people profiting from this are very craven.
But think about it. How would you feel if you'd taken a few million quid and you had allowed asylum illegal migrants into your hotel and one of those people had gone out and stabbed? I mean, no amount of money, or stabbed or raped somebody locally. How would you feel for the rest of your life? How could you even begin to live with yourself? You know, that type of money is not the type of money that anybody should want to earn. And frankly, I think, you know, my message to those people who have, if you like, taken the king's shilling.
Yeah.
You know, there's that saying, you take the king's shilling, you fight the king's war. But you really have to work out what war it is you want to fight in life. And I would ask those people that have taken these contracts to really consider what it is that they have done to their local communities and to the people of Britain, because that is who this is affecting.
I couldn't have put it better myself. Honestly, John, thank you so much for joining us. I want to leave you with a little fact about John just before he goes. If he's still there, John won £100,000 betting on Donald J. Trump winning the election in 2016. I think we should all be listening to you for everything, because even that year, I didn't think he'd get it past the line. John, what was your intuition there? How did that happen?
Did you call in to talk on the day?
Yeah.
I was here. I was here with Kevin. Yeah, I remember this.
That's right, with Kevin. Yeah, that's right.
Because I was frantically trying to work out whether you were actually going to get it in the end.
No, I did.
Oh, wow, amazing.
William Hill had to pay up.
Oh, wow. No wonder you didn't need that, you know, migrant hotel money after that. I mean, I'm sure they offered you much more than 100K, but my goodness.
Yeah, no, I mean, I use this, you could call it a mathematical algorithm. You could call it that.
Right. So it wasn't about your gut instinct.
Well, I sort of analysed the communication that occurred when he came down the escalator. And when he came down the escalator, I just knew, based on this algorithm, that he was going to win. And so I took the book at William Hill at about 33 to 1.
Wow.
And I put 36 different bets on. And I only did it. I'm not a gambling man. You won't believe this, but that's about the only bet I've ever placed in my life.
See, that makes it more annoying, if I'm being honest.
But I only did it. I only did it because, you know, it's one of those things. If you'd said to people, oh, well, I knew he was going to win the day he came down the escalator, everybody would have said, oh, no, you didn't. But this way, I had the betting slip. So I could sort of make my point, if you see. But actually, that's an interesting thing. You see, the algorithm showed at that point that America was at its 11th hour.
Yes, that's true.
You see, America is always a little bit further ahead of us culturally. You know,
it's like always about 5 years.
We only just sort of got hula hoops here last year. And,
you got one of those?
You know, we only got conservatism.
So my point is that what happens in America comes over here. So we are, I think, for instance, I believe that Nigel Farage will become the next Prime Minister. That's my
Are you going to be putting 100K on that?
Well, the odds aren't good enough.
No.
They've come in too much.
Yeah, you wouldn't be making that much money at this point.
You're not going to get 33 to 1 on Nigel. If you want to give me 33 to 1, I'll have some of that. But,
John, such a pleasure. Such a pleasure to have you on. Maybe you'll be housing secretary in the future. Who knows? Thank you. That is John. He's a national hero. He actually said no to the craven people at the Home Office, at the government. We'll be talking about woke policing next. You don't want to know what the DEI people have been spending money on, because it is outrageous. That with Mike Neville after the break.
The people on the gates of a prison, at the doors of a prison, are not prison officers. They're subcontracted.
Well, they're called operational support grades. They wear a uniform, black and white, the same as prison officers. They're not trained to the same standard as prison officers. What they should have done is rang up their manager and said, look, we've got some guy here, keeps going on about being deported. What do we do with him?
Yeah, keeps going on about, I don't think you should be releasing me.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I did forget to mention that lovely John Mappin does actually have a book out. It's called Sovereignty. And it's the restoration of sanity. Yeah, something he's very good at. I mean, yeah, he does need your money, so definitely do go and purchase that. There it is. It's a fantastic sort of. He didn't write it, but someone else did, and he would like us to plug it. Yeah, he's a very interesting man. They don't make them like him.
No, they don't.
They don't make them. They do not make them like him anymore. So definitely get reading on that. Now, I want to talk about something quite near and dear to my heart. I've had to call the Met Police probably 3 times in the past year for various incidents. Nothing to do with me, me and my home life
You're the
or
reason
anything.
With no resources.
Yeah, well, me being the reason of being chased home with a knife, having my phone swiped, and also getting assaulted on the bus. So it's been a lovely year. But I was very happy to see that they have spent a staggering £5.2 million on employing 64 diversity staff, despite powering frontline services to the bone. So yeah, that's true. I mean, even when I called the police, they said, oh, could you get a cab home and we can meet you there and discuss what happened to you. That's genuinely what happened to me when I got assaulted on the bus. Incredible. So let's talk to Mike Neville, former Met detective, who knows a lot about this. Mike, welcome to the show.
Yes, good evening.
I mean, back in your day, was a DEI officer a thing? I mean, how far have we fallen?
Well, there was no such thing when I started. And what strikes me, Tamara, is that the more diversity and inclusion officers are, the worse it gets. So we were told originally that if we have all this diversity, trust and confidence in the police will increase. Well, when I was a detective, the trust and confidence in the police was very, very high. Scotland Yard was seen as a crime-busting organisation. No trust and confidence in the police is at rock bottom.
No, you're completely right. And I think that is for various reasons. I mean, as you always say, they'd spend way more time patrolling our tweets than patrolling the streets, or at least that's how you could perceive it because of sort of all the various useless arrests they've made and useless knocking on doors that they've done. I mean, this DEI thing, is this really going to be an issue in terms of how police think about what they are then doing on the streets? Do these DEI officers get into the minds of police and sort of infiltrate it and say, hey, you can't stop certain people, you can't do this, you can't do that? Is that what's going on here?
Well, it's all part of the culture, isn't it? People are frightened to death of identity politics, and it's really how they train the officers originally. You know, they trained when I started. It was like a military-type barracks at Hendon being marched around by a sergeant. Now it's at universities, so it's very woke, and you do see this. For example, you see the universities are full of anti-Semitic beliefs, and we see how the police, you know, are not trusted by the Jewish community.
Great point.
It's all backfired on them, and the key thing for me, they're going about trust and confidence. So they say, oh, we must have more black officers, we must have more women, we must have more gay officers. No one really cares about that, apart from these people in this cult. Most people would say if you solve more than 1% of thefts, if you solve more than 5% of burglaries, this is what people would care about. I keep saying the same thing. No one ever says, I didn't like the colour, sex or sexuality of the officer who turned up to help me when my phone was stolen, I was sexually assaulted, my house was burgled. What they say is I got a rubbish service. The police didn't do what they should have done and didn't catch the criminals. And this is what would restore trust and confidence, but there's an obsession with identity politics right through the top of policing.
You make a really good point, and I think actually to credit police officers, the ones that I have dealt with in the past year have been absolutely lovely and almost sort of apologised to me about, I mean, in the one incident where I did get sort of grabbed on the bus by someone, it was someone to do with the carnival that had been happening in Notting Hill. And they were sort of apologising to me because they were like, well, there's nothing really we can do. We don't want to get in trouble. This is sort of the done thing at this time of the year. And I just feel like you're right. Everyone's sort of trussing each other up and then nothing is getting done and it stalls a lot of progress. I mean, Pete, do you feel the same about this?
Oh, I don't
Pete Barnes is in the studio, by the way,
yeah,
Mike.
hi, Mike. I had one simple thing. I don't trust any political party when they say they're going to get tough on crime and law in this country until you fire every chief of police in the country. They are the problem. It starts from the top down. The chief of chiefs, Gavin Stevenson, is useless because what we have to understand is these are little fiefdoms. These are kind of held together as a kind of like he holds it together by the skin of his teeth, really. But they do have what's I'm reliably informed is the UK Policing Handbook, and this is kind of the police telling other like bobbies on the beat how to police. And if the people at the top are writing it, which they are, they're focusing on hate crime. They're focusing on policing tweets. So therefore, the rank and file are. This is my point, is it all drips down from the top. So because the chiefs went to university, they got infected with the woke virus. I do use that word deliberately because it is an infection and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. This was the kind of way that they took out law and order in Britain, if I'm being brutally honest. And it, again, not an accident. The moment we went from force to service, you saw law and order go out of control.
I mean, Britain used to be known for having some of the top policing in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like other countries would actually look towards Britain for some direction. And it just seems to have all gone really wrong. I mean, even when I grew up in Australia, we used to sort of watch all the British crime shows and the police were really onto it and you'd sort of see that. But now it does seem like the soft touch has really come into play. When I got my phone swiped, the policewoman said to me, I mean, I know these are all very minor things to happen,
but it's
so I'm
not,
really not.
Samara, this is sorry, it's not. There's no such thing as a small victim. There's no such thing as a small crime. It is a crime. And the Met Police have a responsibility to solve it, or at least do the best that they can. I don't believe that it's not really that they don't do anything. It's they don't turn up. That's the bigger problem. It's not even a light touch, it's no touch. That's the real problem that I think we have, particularly in the Met. I can't speak to other areas, of course, but I do feel here it's bicycle theft is just basically legal now.
Mike,
well, I think things are changing. Things are changing. So, I mean, I've worked with Hertfordshire Police, and I know that Greater Manchester Police, the Chief Constable there, Steve Watson, you know, back to basics, get it done. And Samara's right. The British police are the head of the game. We had the first fingerprint department, the first DNA database. Scotland Yard was seen as a crime-busting organisation. I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective. Now they're celebrating Pansexual Awareness Day and International Pronouns Day. And the thing is, I think they should have a vote. How many members of the public think this is important, or should those 64 staff, which includes a commander, one of the highest ranks in the police, should they be doing this, or should they be on burglaries, robberies, sex assaults, whatever else affects the public? That's what they should be doing. It should be kicked into touch. But you're absolutely right. This comes down from the top. When I joined the Met, half the senior officers were ex-army like myself, and there was a balance of ex-forces and university types. Now there's no one who was ex-forces.
I don't think you can be
all
anymore,
of a certain ilk. They all believe the certain thing. They'll talk about diversity. There is no diversity of thought. They also, I've actually had the displeasure of sitting with that Gavin Stevens, the head of NPCC, at dinner.
I am sorry.
I've never met. He's the most boring man I've ever met.
They sit you next to each other, Mike, because that would have. I would like to be in
probably
in
at a
between
dinner
that.
as well.
And what struck me, when he was in charge of Surrey Police, he was the head of burglary, the national lead on burglary, and his police force, Surrey, had the worst detection rate for burglary. It just sums up the focus of these people is on the wrong thing. And while they're spending, you know, £5 million billion on diversity. You know, they're cutting forensics, they're cutting mounted branch, they're cutting front desks. You know, I remember a time in the police, as a young officer stood there in my smart tunic with my army medals, people could come in and say, excuse me, I'm going on holiday this week, would somebody check my premises? And would take her details, and on night duty, an officer would go, you know, this is in the 90s, would go and rattle the door, make sure it's all right. How have we gone from that to where the police don't even attend if somebody breaks in and nicks everything? What has gone wrong with policing when that goes on?
I think when you have that sort of dismantling of the policing, you just start to see a dismantling of society, and not to get very big picture about it, but I do think that is the case. And you're right. I mean, I would actually be fine with all these crazy initiatives if we were in a massive time of prosperity, but we're actually in a massive time of austerity at the moment. And you're right, all these cuts are being made in other parts where apparently we've got money in the back of the couch for 47 staff-supported networks and 64 full-time diversity staff, and a diversity calendar where there are apparently 63 awareness events like Pronouns Day and National Tsunami Awareness Week. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Blimey.
Well, it's like life events delivery manager. Now, look, people run about this work-life balance.
Sign me up.
It's all this trendy talk of work-life balance. My view is this, is that I take the motto of the British Legion is service before self. So I was a soldier first, and then I joined the police. If you join something like policing, nursing, in the fire brigade or whatever, any of the armed forces, your duty is service before self. So there is no work-life balance. Your job is to work and do your duty, and everything else is a bonus really on the way. And we've lost that sense of duty, which has kept this country safe through 2 world wars. All the sort of police officers you've seen were awarded medals for being brave and doing the right thing. And it's all this cock and bull story of work-life balance. You join an organisation where your job is to serve others, they are more important than you. That's the reality of it.
Well said.
No, I completely agree. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show. That's Mike Neville, former Met detective. They don't make them like him anymore. No. I wish he was in charge. Oh my gosh, one of my most favourite coppers out there. But yeah, I mean, they're few and far between. Do get your phone calls in. Call me about anything. 0344 499 1000. That is the number to call. Later in the show, we'll be talking about the woke BBC. It's all gone woke. Some people say woke is dead. I think it's very much alive. Do you agree? 0344 499 1000 is the number, or shoot me a text. I will see you for calls after the break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Give you that.
Welcome back. Let's talk to Chris in Romford. Chris, welcome to the show. Oh, you don't have Chris. Mark in Warwickshire. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. My bad. Pete, look.
Yes.
While we're waiting for the calls to sort themselves, you are the...
I know where the pecking list I fall.
You are...
Yes.
If you actually want to get through, 03444991000 is the number. I've got a couple of lines open. You might want to get them. You might want to get them while they're hot. John in London says, Samara, great show. Tell it like it is. That poor mum who got stabbed to death with a screwdriver should not be forgotten. She paid the ultimate price because of these useless woke politicians. Such a good point, John.
She was there to help.
She left behind a child.
She volunteered. She volunteered to help these people, and she got stabbed in the neck.
It's absolutely
it's
mad.
barbaric.
No, it is. It is barbaric.
And again, we have to be brutal about what's actually happening. That's the awful bit about it. We don't like talking about this stuff, but we've got to.
Sean said, stop the benefits and substantially fine food delivery companies that employ illegals, and the boats stop instantly. It's not rocket science. Yeah, I'm a big believer in stopping these enticements. I mean, that is something Australia did very successfully, and
every country is screaming at Britain to stop.
Yeah, I mean, as I said even in the segment earlier, you know, when we've got massive prosperity, maybe this would make sense, maybe, but it doesn't actually. It really doesn't, because most people in this country are feeling the hip pocket. They're feeling the touch of Rachel Reeves's tax.
Let's not even get into that. Monday has been miserable enough.
I had a grandmother message me today saying she's freezing and she's had to choose between heating and eating this winter because of Rachel Reeves's tax policy. So that's actually what's going on.
Oh, yeah. I remember there was a lady called Agnes who rang Peter Cardwell here, and it moved the station. Like, it was actually harrowing to listen to this lady saying, I'm just sat in the in a room with one single heater because she can't afford heating and eating.
That's horrible.
That was the consequence of the policy. This is the point. They also had the impact report, didn't read it. Well, it was their own impact report as well. It wasn't a party. It was their people made the report. They said, if you do this, 4,000 pensioners have the potential to die. And they did it anyway.
They're not going to vote for us in the next election. That's probably what was bandied around the rooms at number 10. Look, let's talk about the BBC, which is also meant to be the backbone of this country. When everything goes to hell, we used to be able to rely on the BBC. But they've officially lost the plot. I was reading this article today. We've now learned that staff feel uncomfortable, basically. Some of them do feel uncomfortable about the trans toilet policy. So they had toilets and they were gender neutral. They're being told that if they feel uncomfortable about it, they can work from home instead. So the basics of biology and privacy have been totally shoved aside, and the BBC has just decided to send people home. Now, these people are being paid for by the money of you and I and everyone else. So this is why it really concerns me. But it also concerns me because they're not protecting women's spaces. And the bathroom is now some sort of battleground for them. And that's what makes me really, really uncomfortable, that this woke ideology has seeped into an institution like the BBC, something we used to rely on.
It's not just seeped in, they're exponents of it. They are the megaphone. There's that and the NHS. They are the biggest megaphones of this stuff, and they seep it into our homes every single day, at all times of the day.
It's actually very dark and insidious when you think about it, because they're sort of...
One thing I do like about this policy is, can we lock the door when they go home so they don't come out again? Because what these people are science deniers. Can we start calling these people what they are?
No, but these people that are going home are the ones that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want them in society. They could go away.
Let's talk to the mother of all people who despises the BBC, and I love her. It's Rebecca Ryan. Rebecca Ryan from Defund the BBC. Welcome to the show, Rebecca. I mean, what do you make of this? This is ludicrous.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? It's the BBC. You know, the Supreme Court had a ruling on this, and it said, you know, actually single-sex spaces have to be respected, and that women are an actual thing, and that, you know, it's real. Science actually exists.
It took 5 years, Rebecca. It took 5 years. Okay.
The top legal minds of this country took 5 years to say that a woman is an adult biological female.
Yes.
Chilling.
But the BBC's just decided, oh no, we can't deal with the law. We're just, we're going to just say people can be at home if they want to. And it's licensed fee payers that are paying for this. It's really unfair, because we all know that if you're working from home, it's a lot less efficient, and they should all be in one place. They should be rocking up for work if we're paying for them. But the BBC has said, we're waiting for government guidance. You don't have to wait for that. The law is clear. Science is a real thing. But the thing is, the BBC just doesn't like it. And so they're prepared to, bend the rules however they want. They're picking and choosing the rules that they want to follow. And as you've said there, they are the main proponents of this ideology. And so, of course, they're going to say, if you don't like it, don't come in because, we're not bothered anyway. So it's really frustrating for licence fee payers.
I mean, they've noticed their viewership numbers dropping and dropping year by year. You see things like Doctor Who, which they've completely wokeified, getting terrible, abysmal ratings. Do you think that they will ever return back to the BBC that we once all knew and loved? Because there was a time, I mean, even over in Australia when I grew up watching the BBC, and I was totally addicted to it because it used to be Monty Python, it used to be Blackadder, it used to be all the best things. I mean, even Alan Partridge, which they've brought back, but it's been completely wokeified. Do you think there is a way back, Rebecca, or have we gone too far?
I just think they're obsessed with the youth. The problem is for them is because young people just don't watch the BBC in the way that we used to growing up. And obviously, I think you're a lot younger than me anyway. But I think the young people now, I've got a daughter who's 17. They just don't watch broadcast TV. They're watching things on demand, they're watching YouTube, they're watching, basically TikTok the whole time. And so the BBC are desperately trying to sort of appeal to these young people in the hope that, some of them will pay a licence fee at some point in their lives. But it's just not happening.
No. I mean, the average viewer of the BBC is 61 years old, and I don't think they're going to get that 17-year-old who is addicted to TikTok anytime soon.
Exactly, absolutely. So I can't see that there's any going to be that the old-fashioned BBC is going to come back and actually wake up and start producing content that the average person wants to see. And that's the thing, they're legally obliged to represent all parts of Britain, all parts of the UK. That's how they're able to sort of charge people for watching any broadcast TV. But they just don't care. They're a law unto themselves, and they just think, well, we just want to protect the licence fee at all costs, so we're just going to keep trying to appeal to young people, which is why they're shoehorning all this woke stuff into absolutely everything, and people are just sick of it.
Lisa Nandy has said that she might get rid of the licence fee. What would that be replaced by in your mind, Rebecca?
Well, I think more and more people are watching, on-demand content anyway. I think COVID really sort of helped everyone get on board with, Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus and all of these different options that we've got now. And even the likes of sort of ITV and Channel 4 on demand on a smart TV now you can watch. And they used to also, if they don't want to see ads, like on YouTube, they pay a little bit of a cost to not see ads. And I think the BBC could easily do something like that because that's what everybody else is doing. But whether or not the Labour government will have the backbone to do it, it seems quite unlikely. But at some point, they're going to have their coffers are going to run dry, and they'll have to do something because, as you say, the older people are the ones who are watching it. As they unfortunately sort of pass away or move on to pastures new, young people just aren't paying for it. There's just not going to be the money for the BBC. So hopefully, some government at some point is going to step in and actually do something about it.
Yeah, no, you make such a good point, and I want to keep you. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back to you, Rebecca. Let's go to break now.
Even I am not going to blame David Lammy.
Remember, this is a man who went on Celebrity Mastermind and asked, name a blue cheese. He said Red Leicester. Which French Marie won the Nobel Prize? Antoinette. And best of all, which Henry came after Henry VII? Before Henry VII. Which Henry came before Henry VII? He says Henry VIII. I mean, this is not a man that is capable of running a service of the complexity and importance of the prison estates.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Debbie says, I'm 63. I will not watch anything at the BBC or live TV. It's utter rubbish. That's Debbie in Redhill. Yeah, I mean, you can watch Talk for free, so why would you watch the BBC? Rebecca, I wanted to keep you on the line here because I've got a few callers, some insane stories, and I just wanted your reaction to them. Let's go to Wayne in Lincolnshire. He got put into prison for not paying his BBC licence fee. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
What happened?
I was one of the. It was 1984. This guy come walking up my garden path, and before he approached me, he was knocking on other people's doors, but they didn't answer to him anyway. And I said to him, I said, "Are you lost?" And his words were to me, "No, but you will if you ain't got a TV licence." And it all went downhill from there.
Oh, God.
Apparently, he'd been on the beat, because I still do, live on a massive council estate, and I'm not sure if they was, if you get caught someone without a licence, they was on bonuses. I don't know how it went, but the men set an example with me and took 9 weeks of my life away for not having a TV licence.
Rebecca, does this happen? Do people get jailed for not paying their licence fee? Because if so, I may or may not be in trouble.
I think that it can still happen, but I don't think they would bang you up straight away. I think there's an opportunity to pay, and then they take to court, and if you don't then pay the fine, then potentially, so that it goes down the, there is a
process
in between. But the thing is, nowadays, it's far more difficult for them to police it. It's almost impossible for them to police it unless they see you actually watching live broadcast TV. Then they can't prove it, because so many people have smart TVs now. So if you don't have, if you can have a TV, you don't need to have a TV license to have a TV anymore. You used to have that, but now people use basically they use it for gaming, they use it for all sorts of other things. So they would have to prove that you're using the TV for watching live broadcast TV, and in order to do that, they'd have to catch you in the act, or you'd incriminate yourself. So people need to know that if someone comes around knocking on your door, that you have to say that. And obviously, we're not advising that people break the law. So what you have to do is say that you're not watching any live broadcast TV. You are only watching on-demand or catch-up content, and excluding iPlayer. You can't watch any iPlayer, even though it's on-demand or catch-up. So as long as you're watching anything else on-demand or catch-up, you don't need a TV license.
Oh, there you go. That's very interesting. I just FYI, I do begrudgingly pay my TV license, but I'm never happy about it.
I like to pay it because then I get to complain about it. I know that's a very British thing, but interestingly, I remember a few years ago there was some stats done on this, and it was women that were disproportionately affected by it, because they were the ones stereotypically at that time who were stay-at-home mums. Right. They were the ones who opened the door to the TV license people, and they were the ones that got in trouble because stereotypically they were the ones running the household paperwork, basically, and it was their names on things, and they were the ones that got in trouble. So actually, you could argue the TV license is sexist. if he really wanted to go down the woke route. At one point, anyway.
Yeah, and that is the case, and it still is the case.
Is it still the case? Yeah. I was going to say, this was a few years ago. I don't know if it still is. That's it. Yeah.
Prosecutions are women, and that is because the licence fee is attached to the household, not to a person. And so whoever opens the door will be prosecuted. And it is still the case, more likely to be women.
I have no idea about that.
More of the childcare, and therefore they're more likely to have part-time work or not be working at all. So yeah, it tends to be vulnerable single mums, low pay, and they end up getting prosecuted. And it's outrageous, really. It is discriminatory, the prosecution process.
It's all fine, Rebecca. It's so that people can sit at home because they're worried about trans bathroom policies. That's just please. That is why. Okay, that is the good work that they are doing while chasing down these BBC licence fees. Let's quickly go to Mark in Carlisle. He said BBC are killing stories. Welcome to the show, Mark. You used to work there.
Yeah, somebody who's excreted to the bowels of the BBC investigations for 15 years. I know where the bodies are buried. The public and your listeners do not know that there's 5,489 journalists work for the BBC. You might ask, what are they doing every day? What they're doing is they're catching and killing the stories, so you only get 1%. I've looked at this for 19 years now in investigation. I'm going to release all the stuff that I found of all the kind of stories which have been killed over the last 19 years I've studied this. I could go back further, actually. So there you go. There's something exclusively for your journalists to start digging and see what type of stories they've kept away from the public. And I have got the evidence to prove they're doing it.
Rebecca, anything to say to that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the thing is with the BBC is it has a complete monopoly over the news cycle because it's... traditional printed news, now that it's online, has to have a paywall. And so most people will go, if they don't want to go to the Daily Mail, for example, to read their news stories, they'll go to the BBC just because it's free. There's not really anywhere else to go. And then the BBC goes, oh, well, look at how many visitors we get. These are all the people. They go there because they're already forced to pay for it. And, they're putting good news publications out of business in that way as well. But yeah, absolutely. What they decide is the top story of the day then ripples through across, elsewhere. And it is only places like sort of talkTV or GB News or other places that actually dig around and find stories that the BBC doesn't cover. And certainly that's how they push these agendas, and we see it time and time again.
You make such a good point. I mean, even just last Friday, we were covering the Hadush Kabutu, who is that illegal sex offender who got accidentally freed. And I looked up at my BBC and I see that they're doing the plight of the spearfish or some random story like that, and not actually focusing on what the people want. So you're right, they do kind of control the narrative, but they also don't have any competition. So they're sort of, they don't have to push the boundaries at all or put anything to the surface that maybe would be of interest to the public, in my opinion. So Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you having you on the show. That's Rebecca Ryan from Defund the BBC. After the break, George Madrick from Reform UK. We'll be talking all about this escaped migrant.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the Political Asylum. We're now in the final hour. Make sure you get your calls in because I'll be taking them later in this hour, and I will definitely be discussing some of the top stories of the day with you because there is some insane calls that I can even see just now coming in. I mean, people have worked in prisons, things on grooming gangs. I've got a couple lines free, so do get your calls in 0344 499 1000. But I do want to start the hour off to talk about we'll talk about Hadush Kabutu, as I alluded to earlier. But I did want to talk about these columns of masked Muslim men chanting Allahu Akbar in London in a protest against UKIP. Now, this protest was primarily about the Islamification of Britain, the UKIP one. And it's almost like the masked Muslim men that then came in to try and defend themselves were almost sort of reinforcing what the initial protest was about. So it was sort of this very, very interesting mix of those for and against. And I think the point was almost made by them being there. We should have some footage of it. But while we get that up, I would like to welcome to the show George Madrick. He is from Reform UK. He's the leader of Portsmouth City Council. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Samara. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. All the better to see you. I've definitely been wanting to have a chat to you. I mean, we've got a couple stories to get into, but I did want to talk about this protest. I mean, when I think about sort of community division, the videos that I saw plastered all over X sort of portray a Britain that is in complete disrepute at the moment with itself, and a Britain that's almost at breaking point. And almost, I'm sorry to say, but a civil war-esque atmosphere out on the streets of London. What did you think of those protests this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely correct, and I think your analysis of it is absolutely accurate. There does feel to be this mass division, and it's happened across the summer with the protests. We've seen it. And I was just speaking to one of my councillor colleagues this morning, and we are feeling the same thing. I don't think there's ever been a point in our political lifetime where we've seen such division from the left and right, and it's almost made the middle ground, the centre ground, almost murky, as though it kind of doesn't exist right now. It's a very strange time to be in politics. There seems to be a mass movement on the left where there is, in my opinion, a two-tier justice system. I mean, you've got the images on your screen there, and we are literally seeing masked men on the street that are not being stopped by police. These people are obviously clearly being intimidating. They're covering their faces. They're covering their identity. It is very intimidating for the people. It is causing a concern. And this is happening nationwide. It's not just a localised issue now. We are seeing it everywhere. And Tower Hamlet is one of the places where we're getting big problems.
Massively so. I mean, even when I just think about a story I was covering earlier on this month with the Pakistani flags that they had been draping over, but also at the same time denouncing the Union Jack as a council, you start to think, who is this council actually sticking up for? Now, I have no problem with the Muslim community in Britain. A lot of them contribute massively to this country, and we thank them for that. But this is where I start to say, hey, this is really something else here. This is some sort of ulterior motive that they're pushing, and something that is very much anti-Brit. And when I see Palestinian flags being flown, there were other flags, I think there was Pakistani flags as well included in those. And then also a quote that said, one protester shouted, UKIP came specifically targeting Islam. They said, we are coming on a crusade. We need to take back our streets. Now, the UKIP march was obviously cancelled, but this was able to go ahead. So what does that say about our policing? Do you think this is two-tier?
Absolutely, and I think we felt this, as I say, across the entire summer there's been a two-tier system. I mean, I even noticed myself in Portsmouth, you probably know we had a lot of protest in Portsmouth.
Massively.
And there was an immediate difference between the police in Portsmouth, and it's something that I raised with the Police and Crime Commissioner, because when we got there, the police, for no reason, were standing in front of the left-wing protesters, the stand up to racism protesters, and almost protecting them, but they were the ones that were wearing the balaclavas. They were the ones that were shouting the abuse and getting nasty and getting violent. violent. But yet the police were almost protecting them. The police also ushered them to a bus to allow them to leave the area safely. You know, this wasn't being done for the other side of the protest. So absolutely, there is a complete reinforcement of a two-tier system here. It is complete double standards. And as I say, we are seeing this everywhere. We are seeing this everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. This is not just a Whitechapel, Tower Hamlets thing. I mean, in one clip, a protester holding a Stand Up to Racism sponsored placard, we know Stand Up to Racism has a lot to answer for, could be heard saying, "There's no need for that. We're on the same side. Allahu Akbar, God is great." I mean, I just don't think that, as you said, there is no midpoint with this. There's only one extreme to the other, and that's where we really start to see issues here. I mean, Pete, did you want to say something on this? I mean, Pete Barnes is here, by the way, George.
Hi, George. It's nice to see you. One thing I will say is I think people overshot when they said this was the end of woke. I think what we're seeing are woke institutions like a wounded animal backed into a corner, and we all know that makes them more dangerous than ever because the old levers, the old hands that they played aren't working and they don't know what to do, and that's why they're scrambling. That's why we have digital ID. That's why everybody's far right. That's why all this stuff is being pumped out en masse because they know their power is slipping. For a very long time, they held civil society, the corporate world, the legal world, and to a degree, the political world. And now that is starting to wane thanks to parties like Reform, but also thanks to things like the grooming scandal, thanks to things like the cost of living crisis, thanks to the migrant crisis. All of these things have compounded a complete distrust of the institutions that told you diversity is our strength. That phrase will go down as the tombstone on the epitaph of Britain. It really will. Diversity is our strength because it isn't and it never was. Unity is our strength. The things that bind us together were our strength. Diversity is fine, but it's unity that makes Britain Britain. Always has been. And the more that we kind of divide ourselves, we divide ourselves. And I will say the right is getting very guilty of this as well. We're wandering into certain dangerous paths, I think. But we have to stick to what binds us together and what holds us together. And unfortunately, I think there's going to be a bigger battle now than we thought there was ever going to be. We thought it was hard before. It's got to be twice as hard now.
George, would you agree with that statement?
I mean, yeah, look, I've been present at these things, and you're completely right, Pete. I think where we've changed nowadays, and if we need to look at these protests over the summer, we need to look at what's going on now. But where I think we need to really pay attention is the fact that the protests currently are not these stereotypical right-wing protest anymore. We have got women, grandparents, veterans, disabled people, children attending these protests. We've got people from different ethnic backgrounds. We've got different people from different cultures at these protests. I was with somebody that's literally a migrant from the Middle East at a protest who was being called a racist by Stand Up to Racism. It's mind-blowing.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
You couldn't. And I think what's happened is this centre ground, or the people that are usually in the centre, have been labelled as far right by these extreme left people. And as I say, it's got so murky now. And I said to a good friend of mine the other day, when you're standing so far to the left of somebody, even somebody in the centre appears as though you're on your right.
I couldn't agree more with that.
It's bad.
Yeah, it is really bad. But also, it is the false dichotomy of our politics that you're either this or you're that. That has made things so much worse. It has made nuance non-existent. It has made political litmus tests on the left and on the right. So therefore, you've got to believe in everything. Otherwise, you're not a real conservative. You've got to believe in everything. Otherwise, you're not a real social. Like, these kind of broad terms have become like categories, and you've got to tick all the boxes, ironically, for a box-tick society. And it's one thing that's really tearing us apart. It means we can't come together to fix a problem because we're too busy screaming at each other that the other one caused it or the other one is enticing it and all the rest of it. At some point, we all have to put down our weapons and fix a problem. And I would suggest we do it over the grooming gangs because it is kids. It's kids. Why can't we get together in a room and fix a problem when it comes to children and their safety? That is the biggest moral stain out of everything we've seen in the last, 20 years, I would say. It is absolutely repugnant that even now, everybody is playing politics with this issue. Everybody. And it's exhausting.
I mean, that in itself is a very divisive topic. I mean, I did want to get your thoughts on that, George, because Reform has really, really led the charge when it comes to holding people to account with the grooming gangs. I saw Farage today with a friend of the show, Ellie Reynolds, who is a grooming gang survivor, and he was giving her a proper platform, something that Jess Phillips tried to deny her. let's talk about the grooming gangs. I mean, what do you think is going to go on with this inquiry? Because at the moment, Labour has shown yet another time that they're completely incompetent.
They are. They're completely incompetent. They don't really... I think the problem is they don't really understand anymore what the real working class is. I think they've lost what Labour is fundamentally about. The Labour Party of now is not the Labour Party of late. You know, they don't represent real people anymore. They don't represent the people on the ground. And I think this is where reform is completely and utterly saturating the market, because we understand people on the ground, because we are people on the ground. You know, I don't come from a political background in any capacity whatsoever. You know, I live on the ground floor, and I think that's what a lot of people in reform are. They're real lived experience people. And I think things like this we're not scared to talk about. I think the establishment for so long has been terrified, absolutely terrified, to talk about these things. We've known that through the Conservatives and through Labour, and systematically institutions have tried to cover up things, or not talk about things and not disclose things. And finally, there's been people from across the country, usually used in citizenship journalism and programmes like yourself, to exploit these things. I mean, we had it in Portsmouth. You remember, Pete, because I was on one of the shows you were on before, where we had a cover-up scandal of our city council that were trying to cover up the alleged rape of a young girl by a migrant. And we exposed that, and it created national headlines. But these institutions are still, despite the Casey report, they are still attempting to cover up these things to save face. And it's getting to a point now where there has to be a tipping point, and people are now waking up to this, and that is what's causing all these issues.
I couldn't agree more. One thing, sorry, Samara, to put you in there. One thing I will say, and the reason this has all happened, we have the data. We've got the increase in crime. We've got the cost to the economy. We've got the cost, the social cost. We've got the political cost, the legal cost. We have the facts right now, which we haven't had able to get access to, because we've had to demand the facts. We've had to have the people tell us the information, which is just a bizarre concept to me. But because we've been able to shift the Overton window, shift the conversation away from that traditional type of protest into things like the Pink Ladies, into these great protests in Epic, which have been policed by themselves, which have been peaceful, which have been effective in much more than most political protests are anyway, about getting attention, but keeping attention as well. That's the big thing. And also, because they've been peaceful, they've not been able to be smeared and boxed off. That has been the fundamental thing. The Pink Ladies in Epping changed the debate more than anybody has in 20 years. More anybody, and they should be celebrated, and they should be on the fourth plinth as far as I'm concerned.
No, but you're right, but their standard is much higher. I mean, I was on one of those marches probably 2 weekends ago, and the organizer was stressed out of his mind. I mean, he kept saying to me, we're peaceful, we're peaceful, we're peaceful, and it was. There was children, there were mums, there were a bunch of prams on the march. We were walking to a local migrant hotel that they were protesting outside. But the amount of police there was staggering. I've never seen that many police in my life. It was about 200 police. They were looking for anyone to make one wrong move. And I didn't see that this weekend at those anti-UKIP protests. I did not see that there. So that's when you start to say, okay, why are we siding with one group over the other? Why are the police doing that? And no, you make a good point as to, you know, with the two-tier system. It just genuinely exists, and I think people are so fed up with it. And you're right, it's people having to choose between feeding their children. I mean, there was an interview that I did with a woman saying, I have to choose between giving my child lunch or dinner, and I see these migrants living in a 4-star hotel across the road from me with 3 meals a day. And that's the heart of what's actually going on. But Labour doesn't seem to understand any of that.
No, and also what they're doing, and you've probably seen this as well, but they're now using HMOs as dispersal accommodation. They're taking away family homes, converting them into houses of multiple occupancy, which are meant to be used for the most vulnerable people of our society, the people on the lowest earnings. And now we are seeing multiple cases, hundreds of cases across the UK, where private contractors employed by the Home Office are using Section 22s to evict people that are good tenants to make way for migrants. And in Portsmouth, we know this is a case. I can talk about it factually. Guess where some people that were evicted from the HMOs went? You guessed it, a hotel. So we're now putting our residents who are being evicted, the most at risk in our society, we're removing them from their properties to make way for migrants into communities next to schools, next to hospitals, next to areas that we don't know. We don't know these people, and people are rightly concerned. And we're finding a disproportionate number of migrants being dispersed to certain areas as well, into certain pockets, which is where these hot places are coming up and these hotbeds, because residents are noticing a real impact. But then what happens is in other areas where they're not being dispersed fairly, these areas are thinking, well, what's the problem? We're not seeing this problem on our doorstep.
Let's be frank, George. I mean, there's no migrant hotels in Islington, is there? It's the working class that are constantly put on the front lines of this invasion in this country. And that's what absolutely irks me, because they know that they won't have a voice loud enough to speak up about these issues. They know that they won't complain, or when they do complain, they can be labelled as far right, etc. I think that it's a very strategic placement for these asylum hotels, as you say. And you know, it just absolutely boils my blood. Genuinely.
Yeah, I was going to say the prime example is Epping. It's when they went from 1 to 3 hotels in the space of about 9 months. And yet that was just a matter of the algorithm. I've been in the room when these things are done. It's never the algorithm. It is all done by politics, because an MP does not want a migrant hotel in their constituency because of the issues that they come with them. Everybody knows it, yet nobody will say it. And that is the big problem, actually, is that these decisions are being made politically, not what is fair. A word that will define the next general election, by the way. It is about fairness. And I tell you now, the Labour Party just don't get it. They just don't get it. And
let's not forget what was said in that Epping Bell Hotel ruling. The rights of the migrants trump the rights of the British people. Or trump wasn't exactly the word, but they go above the rights of the British people. George, I'm going to keep you over the break, if you will stay with us, because I do want to discuss this wild chase for Hadush Kabutu and David Lammy's part in it. All that and much more after the break.
even I am not going to blame David Lammy.
Remember, this is a man who went on Celebrity Mastermind and asked, name a blue cheese. He said red Leicester. Which French Marie won the Nobel Prize? Antoinette. And best of all, which Henry came after Henry VII? Before Henry VII. Which Henry came before Henry VII? He says Henry VIII.
I mean,
this is not a man that is capable of running a service of the complexity and importance of the prison estates.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's just going after 9:22. You're on the, well, Peter said, actually, sorry, I'm a little confused here by what Peter's saying. The Muslim army is hiding in plain sight, marching on our streets with total impunity every week. Oh, wow. I mean, I haven't witnessed that, but I definitely saw that on X this weekend when I was looking at the marches.
The right have to be very careful not to play inverse identity politics. That's the danger, and we're creeping into that territory quite a lot recently. Not every group thinks the same, because we argue the same thing on the other side. Let's have some ideological consistency. Don't get me wrong, there is problems of special privileges and all the rest of it, but not everybody thinks the same.
MQ, Michael says, well said, Peter. Great stuff, Samara. This madness is out of control. Believe me, they'll kill the wildlife. I swear I'm not nuts. I've seen it with my own eyes. Okay, I'll listen to you, Michael. I'll take what you've just said, and I'll take it as saccharine. 0344 499 1000 is the number. I want to talk to you, George. Thank you for staying with us. I appreciate it. I mean, it's great talking to you. Even Tory boy Peter is singing your praises.
Yes.
Yeah, he was singing your praises during the break. So I was thinking, okay, if you've won him over, which is pretty much the unwinnable.
I don't like anybody. I call myself an equal opportunity hater.
Yes, this is correct. So you clearly are scoring points from all sides. I want to talk to you about this mad weekend we had. Hadush Kabutu, he was freed from HMP Chelmsford. He basically then was, I don't want to even call it a run or a race across town, because from all the leaked footage we've seen, man was just kind of confused. He was strolling around with his avocado tote bag and his jailbird sweatsuit, and he was sort of confused as to where he was. I think he wanted to get back on that flight back to Ethiopia. I mean, you can see the video there if you're listening. It's him sort of trying to chat to maybe some people that speak his language and trying to work out what the hell is going on. But David Lammy is really the one who's probably at the top of the food chain and who you would pin responsibility with. Yeah. And this is a massive misfire. I mean, we've learned that 260 other cases like this have happened this year. What do you have to say to that? I mean, is this Labour's incompetence on show?
Well, I'm glad you brought out about the 262 other prisoners that have been released this year, which I think is important to note, that although Labour have been criticising the Conservatives all day about their cuts to the justice system, what's key to remember is that 262 prisoners released accidentally this year is a dramatic increase on the previous years. I mean, huge increase. I mean, it's now got to the numbers where we're having one person released basically for every working day of the week this year. I mean, it's utterly shambolic. And the buck's got to stop with somebody, right? Whether it's David Lammy, because he's only been in the position for 5 or 6 weeks, I don't know, but someone's head should roll for this, because there's clearly a systemic issue here. There's clearly a problem. And I've also seen today on multiple reports, actually, that the gentleman actually who was released just actually went back to the police station, the jail, a number of times and said, excuse me, I think I should be in prison, man. And they basically sent him away and said, go on, go get a train in London, to London. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah,
It's
what's quite
absolutely
funny, George, sorry, just to chime in there, is they gave him £70 travel money when he left.
Because they were like, get out of here, be on the run.
£70 travel money. That's what they gave him, and told him where the train station was. Like, the idea that this is just one person's fault is laughable.
I would laugh if actually Hadush Kabutu wasn't one of the most high-profile illegal migrant sex offenders in the country that they had accidentally freed. It's not even... I mean, the comedy of how it happened is laughable. But then when you actually think about it, I mean, the family of the victim, the girl whose life he ruined, the 14-year-old, came out and said, I am broken. They said they feel massively let down and infuriated by the migrants' accidental release, and that the justice system and the Labour government had failed them. And it's quite interesting because the Labour government hasn't actually, that I know of, reached out to this family and apologised. And they should, because can you imagine being that girl? I mean, she's already been traumatized for life, and now she's having to deal with the prospect that this guy was out on the loose and then they couldn't catch him for 2 days. I mean, is there an end to this Labour government's incompetence, or is it going to be that Lammy will just keep his job and will move on in happy days?
I mean, I think the irony here is that we couldn't catch a man that actually wanted to be found.
Yeah.
I think that's
yeah, it was the public that found
You're so
him.
right.
It was the public, not the Met Police, who have a budget of billions. And there's 970,000 cameras in the City of London alone. How? How did they not find him? I don't understand it. I genuinely don't. This was a failure at every single level. And the idea that one person has been taken off duties is just insulting. Not just to that family who they weren't reached out to, which is part of the procedure, which wasn't done. It's just the fact that on the... it's quite funny. Westminster speak is always, we've increased checks at the leaving of the prison. In other words, they didn't check anybody. Like, you know, we can't increase something that didn't exist in the first place. This is cover up after cover up after cover up, because this is a major, major blow to the government's kind of tough on crime, try and get it on other
asylum
considering
seekers.
what we have later this week, which is the sentencing bill, where I would point out, under this bill, David Lammy is pushing that guy would not spend a single day in prison if this bill passes on Wednesday.
What would Reform UK do about this? Because I think this is a much bigger issue. We don't know how many Hadush Kabutus are out there, to be quite honest. We're very, not lucky, but we're lucky that he is the guy that's he had such a public case because he sparked the Bell Hotel riots, or basically just protests. I wouldn't even call them riots, to be honest, but that's how they were characterised by the other media. What would you do as Reform UK to stop this from happening? Because I just don't think we can get past this. This is sort of the pinnacle for me.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, what I'd also like to know is what these other 262 prisoners have done that have been released as well, because we've not heard about them until today, right? It's not really been disclosed. And some of these people will be seriously dangerous people that are on our street that we had no real knowledge of until today. But Reform, I mean, look, this situation never would have begun in the first place if Reform were in power, because we made it very clear that anybody that enters our country through the illegal boat system, illegal methods, would be put in a detention facility of some description. We've made that very clear. We would not put them in hotels. We would not be putting them in dispersal accommodation. They would be in secure facilities where they're safe and the general population are safe at the same time, where they wouldn't be free to walk the streets and attack people. So we wouldn't be in this system to begin with. You know, Reform are going to take a really tough stance on crime. We've made that very clear, and we have to, because we're becoming a lawless Britain, you know, where we're not even prosecuting shoplifters. I've got a shop down the road where every single cabinet for alcohol is now locked up and you have to press a button to get a staff member to come and pick it up because they're having so much theft. Britain is completely lawless.
Oh, I tried to buy some coffee the other day and it had a tag on it. Genuinely. I mean, this is alcohol is at other level, but yeah, you're right. Society starts to really break apart at the seams when you're having to ask when you want to get a coffee and, you know, maybe a razor that you have to, like, sort of, and chocolate and different basic necessities that you have to ask a shop attendant to do. That's when you start to say, wait a second, what's going on here? And you're right, they can't prosecute anyone for anything under
£200.
£200, which just shows what a soft touch we've become. I mean...
But that's when you hit it hard. That's the point. That's what Rudy Giuliani did in America. That's how he turned around New York. He hit that stuff like with a mallet on a small nail. It was a significant crack. It was called broken window. And basically what you do is you cut down on the small crime, and it stops people entering like the kind of criminal system where realistically you go to prison and you become a better criminal. There were universities at one point here in the UK. We kind of tempered that down a bit. Now they just seem to be radical hotbeds of Islamism, but that's another problem altogether. One thing I do think we really have to talk about, though, is the prison system itself is collapsing, not just in terms of space, but in terms of expertise, in terms of staffing, and in terms of, the sheer cost of it. So interestingly, the DOJ, their entire year budget is 2 weeks of spending by the Department of Work and Pensions.
Oh, really?
So either they're not spending enough,
or
they're spending way too much.
At this prison, HMP Chelmsford, apparently most of the staff, the average experience that they have is under 2 years.
Yeah.
So then you can see how this guy slipped through, I think it was 7 or 11 different levels of security. I mean, it's even like, does anyone watch the news there at that prison? Does anyone see that man's face was plastered across everything? Would Reform do a Giuliani-style raid on its constituencies? I mean, do they want to just lay down the law like that, or is there a more
absolutely. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, if you're asking me personally, I mean, this is me talking personally one-to-one, is I would absolutely reform the justice system personally. I think for petty crime, things like that, we could do different things. We could do house arrest where they wear a band, where we're not footing the bill to look after them, we're not securing them, and they stay in their own property. So they're essentially under house arrest. I'm talking that for petty crime. But that would certainly deter a lot of people. We need to look at where the hotspots of crime are. A lot of crime starts when people are young, when they're youthful and in their teens. That's when crime actually begins. And in my ward of Paulsgrove, which I know we don't really talk about local politics here, but I think this is relevant.
No, it's important.
In my ward of Paulsgrove, when I got first elected, I asked what the biggest problem was, and it was youth crime. So I got straight in there with the Police and Crime Commissioner. We did loads of youth schemes where we did free cinemas, free boxing, free activities under the proviso that they were not picked up by community support officers or by police officers. And if they did, they lose those rights. It took a few children to break those rules, and all of a sudden, no rules. We now are the safest wards in our entire city, when only 4 years ago we were the most dangerous wards in our entire city, because antisocial behaviour from a youth level has been completely stamped out in our area. And we need to look at these different ways of dealing with crime from a youth level. It's a little like drugs. They say there's gateway drugs to things, right? And it's the same with crime. People start early, they're youthful, they get away with little crimes, there's no punishment. So it reinforces them in their brain that they're not punished for these petty crimes, and that is where they get worse and worse. And we kind of breed our own criminals, and we have to look at the system to stop it.
100%. And I think the most important thing that it sounds like you do is you stick to the rules. That's the point. There is accountability, individual accountability.
Because you've actually enforced it, George, within your constituency. Because the issue is, I was reading today that even someone wasn't wearing their ankle bracelet when they were on house arrest because they claimed that they were an alcoholic and their legs were too swollen. So it's this type of excuse after excuse and soft touch that does plunge us into this sort of putrid pool that we're in today, which we like to call modern Britain. But no, George, look, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear from you. Keep doing what you're doing. That's George Madrick. He is from Reform UK. He's the leader of the Portsmouth Council over there. Wow, I mean, I've got a lot of calls here, but do get some in. 03444 499 1000. Let's talk after the break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Someone has said, nameless person has said, why do you assume it's incompetence? Yeah, I think because we can see that. I mean...
Yeah, this lurch to conspiracy requires very dumb people to do very smart things. It's unlikely. 9 times out of 10, it is incompetence. I'm not saying there aren't cover-ups, I'm not saying there's not this stuff, but 9 times out of 10, it is very underqualified people in very important jobs.
Other nameless person has said, good program tonight. Are you sure that Ethiopian was accidentally released? Misdirection, perhaps. And also M says, sorry, Samara, I live right next door to the Barbican Hotel in Islington and it's full of migrants. A school in Clerkenwell that's converted into a migrant halfway house. So please tell everyone in Islington that they are screwed. That is why we are all moving out. I don't live in the Barnsby area. Yeah, I agree. Kind of what I meant with that when I say Islington is, I mean like a ritzy sort of middle class areas. Leafy. Yes, leafy, you know, where the elite like to cower away and not be concerned with the real world problems that we all kind of have to deal with. Do stay tuned because I've got a treat for you. It's Petri at 10 p.m. tonight, 10 p.m. till 1. She is going to be doing her full 3-hour show. She'll be taking your calls. I'm sure she's got a lot of great guests lined up. That is a real treat, that show. So that'll be from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. Tonight. Let's go to Grace in London. Grace, what did you want to say?
Hi. Yeah, obviously, I think that what happened in Tower Hamlets with these masked people is horrendous and unacceptable. But I also think that the march that UKIP was endeavouring to carry out was really not helpful and not a good idea in multiple ways. One of the things that bothered me about it, I mean, on the one hand, the reality is that if you protest in some particular way, you're going to get some kind of backlash that may just harm your cause. I mean, I think there's sometimes about Just Stop Oil protesters, for example. They're actually just harming their cause because you protest in a certain way and you just get backlash. If you're going to protest, you need to do it in a way that's not just going to wind people up. So I think that the UKIP protest was just going to wind people up.
Isn't that what protests are for, though, to wind people up a little, to kind of get the point across? Oh, do you?
I agree with Grace. If you're going to protest, be smart about it. Actually effect change. If you just want to shout and scream at something, that's fine. But if you actually want to change,
was trying to do.
But that's how it came across, though. But also, don't call it a crusade. I mean, messaging and branding, I get what they're trying to do, but that is throwing it in their faces, and they were not necessarily provoking that reaction, but I understand the reaction back to it.
I mean, I think that something that really hits me is that they said this is a Christian country and it's going to stay that way. But unfortunately, well, I think it's unfortunate because I think that Jesus offers real joy to everyone. I think actually this country kind of stopped being Christian, irrespective of Islam. People mostly just abandoned Christianity, and you can't make people.
So you're fine with them shouting Allahu Akbar on the streets because that's what they were doing.
Well, but what I'm saying is that this country became secular, and people, you can't say this is going to stay a Christian country because it's each person's decision. And the thing about Christianity that's really different from Islam is that whereas Muhammad went round trying to win power by force, Jesus actually said, no, you know, that the battle is against sin and each person can decide for themselves whether they're going to turn to Jesus. He didn't go around fighting people. He didn't go around trying to, wage war on people. And that's part of the reason that our society is more peaceful than some other societies.
Yeah, it was done by kind of...
You're nodding away there.
No, it's 100%. It's the fundamental difference between Islam and Christianity is one is a codified laws, the other is kind of convincing through... stories and through fables and
then
things
with
like
Judaism in the Torah they debate the text, so that's a whole other thing.
They don't try to kill you if you leave the religion like they do in Islam.
Yes,
there is that fundamental difference.
That fundamental difference, which is you know,
but that is a huge point about how we understand how these communities are going to clash with each other, because they see this as a black and white issue of right and wrong. We see it as more kind of a cultural argument. We see it as a kind of broader context kind of thing. So that kind of dichotomy is going to clash, and it's going to clash in a very violent way. We should have done this thing called integrate. We didn't do that. I mean, God knows why.
No, but I agree with you. I mean, there used to be migrants that really, really wanted to be part of the British culture, and I've written a whole thing on this. It's a whole other topic for another time, but it's actually the second generation that tend to be a little bit more extreme sometimes because they have this wistful thought about the homeland and where they've come from that is actually just doesn't exist and is not true. I think that there are a lot of first-generation immigrants that came to Britain and wanted to just make it a better place. Yeah. That was kind of how it was. But yeah, I think there's a confused generation in there, which is the second generation. So that's a whole other thing. But Grace, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Frank in Bristol. Frank, welcome to the show.
Hello. I was listening to you chatting to the fella about not having a TV licence.
Yes. Yes.
No. Yeah, right. Well, I got a better one than that.
Go on.
I know a fella. He's a bit autistic. He's a little bit special needs. He's a lovely kid, but he's okay. Anyway, it was a few years ago now, but they took him to court for not taking his library books back.
Are you serious, Frank?
Serious? I'm serious, yes. They gave him £100 fine. The magistrate said, how do you propose to pay that? And he stood there in his childlike innocence and said, I can't, I've got no money.
Okay.
So they swapped it.
Did he have a lawyer? Did he have any representation, or was it just...
No, he never entered...
He's not entitled to legal aid.
I knew him because he was a glass collector in a club I was a doorman at.
Okay.
And no disrespect to him, that was the height of his talent, really, was collecting glasses. But we've all got a rung on the ladder of life, and we all need our glasses collected, and we all need someone to do the door. And
no, of course. I don't think you should... So he was sent to prison.
So they gave him 30 days then for not taking his library books back.
It's just, at that point, it's just a waste of resources, isn't it? It's like this poor little
When
lad.
we talk about overcrowding...
Now, I've been to prison, right? I make no...
Frank, what did you go in for?
Me, not paying my VAT.
Okay, well, that's a little bit more serious than library books.
Yeah, the VAT bill.
That's slightly more... That's slightly more criminal.
I never denied it. I said, yeah, I had bigger priorities in my mind.
So you were more happy to go to jail than pay for your VAT?
No. If I had the money, I'd have paid it. If I didn't have it,
right, that's
it was as simple as that. There was a multitude of ways they could have dealt with me.
How long were you in the clink for, Frank?
They gave me 6 years, 8 months.
6 years?
8 months. Yeah.
That must have been a lot of VAT.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on which...
How much VAT was it?
It was quite a lot. Well, in my defence, I'm dyslexic. And
was that your actual defence?
Yes, they said it was VAT. I thought...
Was that your actual defence in court?
Yeah, I thought it was FAT, Frank's added tax. That's what I thought, right?
Right, fair enough. You know... To be fair to you, VAT is a bit of an anomaly, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's...
VAT, it's a debatable bill. You know, we can moralise about they're stealing more money off.
Well, I've just laid out for you during this whole show where your VAT would be going. It's going into DEI jobs at the BBC and trans bathrooms and...
The reality is most of it is going to
hotels.
pay debt interests.
Yeah.
That's the more irritating thing. It's not even paying off the debt, it's paying interest.
Frank, I've got a note here. Kabuto, not released by accident. What's that about?
No, he wasn't released by accident. Not in any way, shape, form or manner was it done by accident.
Why do you think that?
As somebody said just now, there's 10 or 11 levels of security to go through. There's checkers checking the checkers.
Okay.
Then you got checkers checking the checkers. Who's checking the checkers? And this goes
a lot of checkers.
Now, when I was there, because I became quite pally with a traveller kid, and without going into it, I taught him to read and write.
Yeah.
He desperately would like to learn to read, so I taught him. So the authorities in there approached me and said, would you like to help us run a charity called the Shannon's Trust, which is to teach men to read and write?
Okay.
So I said, yeah, that'd keep me busy, that'd be all right, I'll do that. So I did that. And so I had a sort of interaction with the staff in their office a bit more than most people would. So I could see a lot of what was going on. And I got to be blunt about it, I have rarely in my life met such lazy people. They are absolutely bone idle. And that is 90%. The 10% that are not lazy are up against so much...
But they did it on purpose? They released him on purpose.
They couldn't care less. Yeah, they released him on purpose without a shadow of doubt. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying in their mind that they were saying, oh, let's...
Oh, yeah. Right, I'm with you.
Right, but you... Yeah. Oh, okay, I get you now. Because, I was thinking,
well,
I mean...
Yeah. So this is actually one of the major... I'm going to say, Frank, sorry, just to interrupt, this is one of the major problems within the prison service, is you have lost the expertise and the people who actually cared, because over the Conservative years, they retired early, like the early pensioned out, basically, everybody who was actually any good at the job. And that's why you've got so little experience running the prison system, which is now collapsed. How nobody saw that coming, I don't understand, but they did it to save money, basically.
Wow. I mean, I know that there were plates smashing in David Lammy's office. I mean, allegedly, but I know that he was absolutely fuming about it. But also, it's on his head.
The man's a joke. Lammy's a joke.
Calamity Lammy, as he's been called.
Prison. What people don't seem to appreciate, unless you've got a strong mind or strong emotions, prison can be the most traumatizing experience.
Were you traumatized in prison, Frank?
To a degree, I think.
What happened?
Yeah, it certainly affected me. It doesn't leave me. You know, there's still dreams now and again that I'm surrounded by walls and I can't get through the door and this sort of stuff. Yeah. Although it never broke me.
Right.
You know, maybe I'm too arrogant. You know, I think a level of arrogance.
I see a Lifetime movie about not paying your VAT and sort of some sort of like Shawshank Redemption vibe.
Frank, it was Frank's added tax, not me. Right.
I mean, you weren't rightfully. You weren't. I wouldn't wish your imprisonment, but you were. You were in prison.
Value adaptable tax. That's what it is.
Yeah, Frank, it was lovely to talk to you, but I have lots of calls on the line. I've got a couple lines free, about 2. So give me a call on 03444991000. That was Frank in Bristol. We will get your calls after the break.
It's truly unbelievable that is a protest and a scene in the United Kingdom, frankly. Why the need to mask up and hide your identity, hide your faces? Is it because you've got something to hide, or is it because actually you want to appear intimidatory, threatening, and able to harass and frankly frighten anybody who might be watching or drifting by.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill. I'm standing in for Kev all week, but don't you worry, maybe we'll have glimmers of Kev. Maybe we'll call him up during the week and kind of disrupt his sleep schedule while he hosts
will
breakfast.
Not be thankful of that. Even I know that.
Ashley said, clearly a huge lefty group determined to get rid of all the white middle class. There will be, we're talking about the riots. And Andy has said, yay, 3 hours of Petri tonight, as it always should be. That's from Andy. Yeah, I agree. 3 hours of Petri after this. 10-1 nightlife with Petri Hoskin. That is what will take you after this. Let's talk to Sheldon in Buckinghamshire. Hi, Sheldon. Welcome to the show.
Hello, yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
What did you want to say?
I just want to give my opinion on the digital ID card.
What was your opinion on that? Are you for? Are you against?
Oh, I'm definitely against it, definitely. Because obviously Keir Starmer's preaching that it's going to stop illegal migration, but we've got physical ID and that's never stopped illegal migration. And he's saying that you need it to work, which is pretty much causing people, well, potentially facing unemployment and homelessness. And now he's coming out with, well, if you don't want it, you'll have to pay £85 every time to prove who you are. In my opinion, that is...
I didn't know about that policy.
Well, that's what he was spouting on telly the other day.
Right.
He was saying basically, yes, you can use your birth certificate and your free bank accounts, but you'll have to pay £85 to prove who you are.
£85? Can we try and verify that, Pete? I mean, I didn't know about this 85 quid thing. That's ridiculous, if true.
Yes, I was watching it on telly. You were stood there giving it, oh yeah, no, it's fine. You can use your birth certificate if you don't want it, and you can. And then he was sniggering, oh yeah, you can use your free bank accounts, but.
Well, you're right. They're selling us this sort of fake convenience thing, but what you do end up trading off, just like sort of, you know, when you're on Facebook and you click consent to everything, consent to all my information. It is that sort of system, and I just don't know about that in the hands of a Labour government. Sheldon, thank you very much for your call.
I think that's the big point, really, is it's not what they want to do now, it is the potential of this that has always terrified me. Because this idea of mission creep isn't true, it is the mission, you know, like to get this all under one ID. Of course it is. It makes sense as a policy for it to be like that. So there's the idea that, oh, they're just, like, you know, it's only going to go this far, it's only going to go nonsense. Complete gaslighting and a lie. But,
so we've just gotten to the bottom of it. Apparently that £85 charge is for refusing the digital ID when you're offered it.
Oh.
Which is, the ID's free. That's even worse. This is way worse.
So they charge you not to have, yeah.
I didn't see that little, see, these are all the little facts that come out that they're trying to hide from you. They don't want you to know.
Yeah.
£85.
By the way, just on that one, the one thing I would look at, when there is a massive news story, look what's on page 3 of a newspaper, the small little announcement, the tiny little thing that comes out of Downing Street that is massive. It is called taking out the trash. It's a thing we learned from America. It is appalling, and it is how they sneak a lot of it past you. It's called the Blair years, basically.
Yeah, it's called Tony Blair. Let's go to Mark in Lincolnshire. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi there, Samara.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Tower Hamlets thing at the weekend.
Oh, yes. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on it, as a fully paid-up card-carrying member of UKIP,
right.
My thoughts on it are, I was quite disappointed to hear what Grace was saying, to be honest. We had every, democratic right to march in a protest, organised protest.
You did.
Whatever the heck we want in this country. If nothing else was achieved, it exposed the Islamists in Tower Hamlets. That's what it did, if nothing else. Because this is exactly what they are like, and...
I didn't like the face coverings.
Yeah.
That was my main thing. I was like, if you're really going to come out here and start chanting Allahu Akbar and all these other nefarious things, then show your face.
Yeah. What have you got to hide about it? It's the reason I hate anonymous Twitter accounts. It's like, if you're that important, put your face to do it. But what I will say is, the thing is, I look at things in a kind of strategy, kind of inside the bubble, is how effective was the thing. And for me, it wasn't that effective in terms of pointing out a problem everybody already knows exists. I think making noise about it is fine. It is what you do with the noise that most protests fail down. And what has been effective with the Pink Ladies is they've been able to back it up with, a series of peaceful protests, but then they've also had the legal cases. They've had a lot of other stuff go around with it. What I don't really like is people just screaming in the street, which is what I see a lot of the other side just doing as well. For me, I want the right to be effective, and I don't think that was the best way of doing it. I understand why you had the entire right to do it. It should never have been stopped or over-policed or anything like that. I think that's two-tier.
The UKIP one was cancelled, but then these guys were allowed to come